Jen, you got me? All right. Oh, perfect. Stranger's going to start us off this morning.
All right.
Good morning. And I mean that multiple ways. Good morning if you're a Gamecock fan. A couple of wins last night, USC women's basketball, Gamecock baseball, and for a guy like Patrick Corrett who loves the pre-NFL draft build-up, you got a pro day. And you got a perfect Strangers theme song. I don't know how it could get much better here, Bill. We should probably wrap up the show with the harmonica right there. I mean,
Patrick, is that
on the high note.
What do we got there? Is that some hockey, or not hockey? Is that some lacrosse equipment that I'm seeing there just over your left shoulder? Or your
per request, yeah.
Yeah, there was a request on the live stream yesterday that I should put some lacrosse sticks. I think the suggestion was that I should hang them up on the wall, but these are...
As opposed to lean them on the wall.
Yeah, these are headless lacrosse sticks. They're just chaps. I don't have any heads for them. They're downstairs.
Wait a second. So they're just sticks? They don't even have the little net on the end?
No, this is the top. That's called the head. The heads break really easily. I've broken a lot of heads, but the shafts don't break as easily.
Huh.
So
no
I've
idea.
gone through a lot more heads than I have shafts.
Okay.
One way to start this morning. It's one way to start. 803,
I have like
404.
5 sticks downstairs. I have a bunch of sticks.
You gotta always be prepared. That's what I read about being in lacrosse. Or the Boy Scouts. One of the two. Always be prepared.
404, 6100, 7 straight Sweet 16s for USC women's basketball. That's a really impressive number. And last night, the Gamecocks, after a bit of a slow start, really impressive in their second round matchup against Oregon State. 59-42, the final score. Aaliyah Boston leading the way as usual, 19 points and 7 rebounds. And it continues for Dawn Staley and company. Georgia Tech's going to be the matchup in the Sweet 16. Bill, what do you make of yet another Sweet 16 appearance for USC women's basketball?
Consistency, and that's part of it. It's what Dawn Staley has built. Just consistency is I think the word of the morning there for USC women's basketball. Got to continue to shoot the ball well if they're going to continue to go further, but certainly a program now that is in the top 2 or 3 in the nation, and we know that, and they continue to hunt for another national championship and to continue to elevate the program. But consistency is what I think of. 18
more rebounds than Oregon State had, and the Beavers went into last night's game leading the country and shooting threes, 3-point percentage. They beat 41% of their threes, and Carolina just shutting them down from outside. I'll look at the number here, but I think it was like 17% or something is what they shot. Carolina only 1 of 15 from 3, and it basically didn't matter. It was a dominant performance as usual, a 20-2 run there going into halftime, in the first few minutes coming out of halftime, making this, which was a close game early on, making this one decidedly a comfortable Gamecocks win, and getting Taylor Jones, the Oregon State post player, in early foul trouble certainly had a lot to do with that. But shooting 1 out of 15 from 3 and winning by 17 points is really impressive. But that's what happens when you hold the nation's leading 3-point team to 3 of 19 from 3. Defensive dominance, 31.5%, 31.6% is what Oregon State shot overall. And the Gamecocks moving on to their 7th straight Sweet 16, a number that is impressive as I say it out loud. And will be interesting to see where it goes from here. Georgia Tech also a 17-point winner last night. They beat West Virginia. A couple SEC teams knocked off Tennessee, and Kentucky bounced out from the tournament last night. So it moves forward without any major upsets, I think. any kind of double-digit seeds moving on into the Sweet 16 that I saw. And there'll be one more night of round of 32 basketball on the women's side of things to set that Sweet 16, and we'll give you the details of the Georgia Tech South Carolina matchup when we see those pop up from what's going to happen over the weekend, or I guess that would be a Sunday matchup coming up, as the men will start on Saturday and play on Sunday. You mentioned, Bill, so we got a little bit of a break from the men's basketball tournament. From the college baseball perspective, it was Carolina, no problem, over the Citadel. It would be about how you would draw it up. Get a few runs early on, and you get a freshman pitcher out there who is absolutely dominant. Will Sanders goes 5 innings, gives up just 1 hit, strikes out a career-high 10, and Carolina cruises 8-3 over the Citadel. And the word after the game, and we'll let you hear from Mark Kingston more as we roll on, the Carolina coach saying that the Gamecocks continuing their positive momentum after the come-from-behind win to avoid the sweep on Sunday against Vanderbilt, and now getting a little bit of positive momentum to continue to roll into the Florida series this weekend. Bill, what do you make of Carolina baseball last night?
That's the kind of win you got to have to just rebuild momentum and gain confidence and kind of get going there. I don't know if it'll translate to this weekend. Florida's, actually pretty good at the whole baseball thing. Did I hear correctly last night? Not that I paid attention. Baseball polls to me have gotten to be like football. Basketball polls. They're hard to keep up with. Changed so much. Vanderbilt jumped to number 1 this week. Is that what I heard correctly? Are you on with this?
I have not looked at the 17 different college baseball polls, but that would make sense after as impressive as they looked against the Gamecocks. Yeah, I'm looking at D1Baseball.com right now, and Vandy is number 1. I'll get you the Florida numbers. Arkansas 2. It's basically just SEC. Mississippi State 3. Ole Miss 4. Florida 5.
Yeah, I was going to say the reason I said that is Vandy jumped to number 1, and the sentence was how Florida had opened the season at number 1. So, look, it's a good baseball team. Florida is. But with that being said, South Carolina is not a bad baseball team, and you get this thing at Founders Park. The weather is supposed to be nice. This is going to be a good weekend for people to turn out, and be able to, again, I know the capacity limits. I got that. But to make it a home field advantage and for South Carolina baseball to kind of rise up. And I think, Tim, would you guys agree? Of course, we say this coming on the heels of the Houston Rockets losing, 47 games in a row. But baseball is the one sport that's just kind of odd that way, that momentum it seems to play a larger role in baseball than it does in any other sport. Would you guys agree with that? That it feels like once you get the ball rolling in the right direction, sometimes it works out in your favor. I mean, I feel like South Carolina and Clemson have been perfect examples of that this year when you see South Carolina reel off 11 straight to start, lose 5 straight, and now has bounced back with 2 straight victories. Clemson was kind of rolling along, loses the South Carolina series, back-to-back walk-off losses, and then really have struggled to put it together since.
Well, they bounced back a little bit over the weekend. They took 2 out of 3 against Virginia Tech, got a walk-off win last night. I think that game was in North Augusta. They were playing Georgia Southern. But this year for Carolina baseball, certainly it's been a season of kind of extremes for sure. Patrick, I saw you get Bill maybe a side-eye look when he was talking about momentum. I think from the Gamecock baseball, because typically it's the opposite, right? Typically it's all about staying even keel in baseball, right? And you can't get too high or get too low. And I feel like the momentum or the emotion is usually more in other sports, or maybe more important. That's probably not the exact way to put it, but it plays a bigger factor. But this year it has been odd for the Gamecocks for sure, the ups and downs, and hoping to continue an up for Carolina. Wes Clark, by the way, another home run last night. He's got 11 now and continues to lead the country. So what would you put there at the top of the list, Patrick, if you're going to disagree with where Bill's going with on the momentum?
For sure, but you can feel it in a gym once the momentum starts to shift. You even see it with like refs giving calls. Like if you get a couple buckets and start playing hard defense and momentum's going, and your block call might turn into a charge, and the coach has to call a timeout, and everyone comes roaring off the court. I think you can feel it in basketball. Football,
Well,
you can make a case, but
in a game, yeah, but Bill's talking about in a season and carrying it over. Like Texas is a great example, right? Or North Carolina going into the NCAA tournament, they were playing really good basketball. That meant nothing. And we've seen some examples of the opposite happening. So I think from a season
one
standpoint,
pitcher can just so easily destroy all of that, though. That's what I feel like baseball is not an issue.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
One dominant, ridiculous performance. Anytime, I mean, South Carolina could have come in 15-0, and if they went up against Shaq Leiter that day, that would have ended.
I don't know. I understand what you're saying, but it just feels like in baseball, when you get that momentum going, things just break your way. That kind of karma thing. It's just a weird. You are right about that. About how one pitcher can really alter the course of a game. Regardless of the two teams. But with all that being said, I don't know, man. It feels like in baseball too often. I'm trying to think, who was the team a few years ago? You've seen, a couple wild card teams in baseball in the Major League playoffs who just get hot, all of a sudden go rolling through.
I mean, the Nationals are the perfect example, but I still disagree.
No.
What was the record?
We've got a good example.
Yeah.
That they had 19-31 or something?
Yeah, through 50, they were 19-31.
And then, so obviously the wrong way. And then once they got that positive momentum, that's all the way to the World Series championship. So I think we understand what you're getting at, Bill. Not a bad hypothesis this morning. Yeah, I was going to say hypothetical. A hypothetical hypothesis. It's not a hypothetical. Not a bad hypothesis on college baseball anyway. We'll see if Carolina can keep it going, because that's the thing, right? You start with 11-0, but you can pick apart those 11 wins, especially after Clemson kind of fell apart after the back-to-back walk-off wins for Carolina, and doesn't appear to be maybe the cream of the crop of college baseball. It's a kind way of putting it. But Florida clearly is. Vanderbilt clearly is, and those other three SEC teams ranked in the top 5 right now in Division I baseball and D1Baseball.com poll, they clearly are some of the best teams in the sport, and we'll see if the Gamecocks can get back into it. If you're into those poll things, that same poll dropped the Gamecocks 9 spots from 16 to number 25 in the country going into this week. So technically, I guess it's a number 5 versus 25 matchup to that D1Baseball.com poll with the Gamecocks in Florida. Patrick, you pumped it all for Gamecock Football Pro Day today. J.C. Horn, Sadarius Hutcherson, Israel Mukwamu, a bunch of guys, Ernest Jones speaking yesterday ahead of this thing. Shi Smith, another one that Shi Smith says he's looking to put up 4.39 or 4.41 on the 40-yard dash today. And Ernest Jones saying he's really been looking forward and excited to today to prove what he can do and show improvements in some numbers. And really, he didn't say earn some money, but that's exactly what these Gamecock football players are looking to do, earn some money today and improve their draft staff.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only thing I'm excited to see today is Ernest Jones run. I mean, he needed to get faster, and it was kind of hard to tell looking at him on the podium, but I do think he's kind of trimmed down a little bit. I mean, he just kind of felt like always your throwback linebacker, like big shoulder pads, big dude, just your typical Mike, just making tackles all over the place. But for the NFL game, he will need to be able to play in space more and cover and get sideline to sideline. I think he's definitely smart enough and instinctual enough to play at that level, but he will need to get faster. J.C. Horn, I don't think anything's going to change today unless he runs really slow. I assume he's running. I didn't hear him say that he wasn't going to run, but frankly, after seeing the Alabama guys yesterday, what some of them opted to do and not do, I don't know that JC needs to or should run if he doesn't think he's going to get an awesome time. But that's really all the stock that could move today. I'm not sure there's much that Mukwamu can do to kind of change the way teams look at him. I think he's, no matter what, going to be looked at as a project and probably not going to be on an active roster next year if I had to guess, but he's going to be more of a developmental guy. So I think practice squad looks like the way to go for him. He's just too raw, and I'm not sure anybody's going to know what to do with him or if they're going to even attempt to play in the corner. So we'll see that in that regard.
Wait, you think? I'm asking. You think McQuamu will be drafted, but you don't think he'll make an active roster? Is that what I'm?
They expanded the practice squads. I think that would be probably a prime spot for him.
Gotcha.
I thought it was hilarious yesterday. It was really interesting. We never had this happen before, right? For pro days in the past, it's usually a bit of a cluster when it comes to being able to talk to these guys from a media perspective. That I've always worked it in years past with the local TV station or over at ABC Columbia, and you take the camera out on the shoulder and you get in a big group huddle and you try to get in as many questions as you can, and guys are spread out all over the place. I remember they did set up a podium deal for Jadeveon Clowney's pro day back in the day because there was so much interest at the time. But yesterday there was one guy from Argentina that was interested, another guy I believe from Brazil, and then clearly another journalist out there with, I believe it was a British accent. It might have been Irish. It was something like that. And one of these guys suggested that Israel Mukuamu was more suited to be an outside linebacker because of his frame. And you should have seen the poor kid's reaction. He was trying to be very professional and answer the question that was added to it. And then he just admitted, like, sorry, I'm a little thrown off by the outside linebacker thing. Nobody's ever said that before. It was pretty hilarious. Patrick, it just goes to show the interest that the NFL generates from all over this time of year, especially.
Yeah, I haven't watched the McQuamu one. I only watched Horns, Shies, and half of Ernest Jones's so far. But the British guy, I think he kept asking about the Eagles. So correct. I don't know if there's a British Eagles reporter.
So it's a
club. Unaware of that.
It's a big Eagles club over in England. They're very worried about the Eagles draft this year and what they're doing, and so yeah, everybody's well known there.
I was unaware of that, but I mean, also the outside linebacker question isn't as crazy as people I saw on Twitter were talking about it. Because I'll say right now, McQuamu is not a corner to me. I don't think he can play corner in the NFL. So you're gonna have to find something else for him to do, and could be safety, but they're playing positionless football now. And if he can tackle and gain 20 pounds, I don't know how much his frame can really fit. He's very skinny. It's not the craziest question in the world. People will very much poo-poo that question as if it was the most ignorant statement that's ever been asked. But he's not playing corner in the NFL. Nobody's going to draft him to play corner.
Well, that's because outside linebacker is not the next logical spot. It is safety. Somewhere else in the secondary.
And safety and linebacker are becoming hybrid positions now.
Okay, but outside linebacker and defensive end are the hybrid position. And I'm guessing that's where McQuamu's head went.
And McQuamu's not going to play Mike linebacker in the NFL, of course.
No, but outside linebacker is also a rush in spot, and I think that's where his head went to. And just to see his reaction. Confusion at first, and then I think he started processing it, and then it all just got jumbled up together. I think it was an interesting moment yesterday. There were several. Hearing J.C. Horn explain his position of opting out and the specifics behind that. McQuamu also asked about that as well. It's the first time we've heard from both these guys. It was R.J. Roderick just the other day, right? A day before yesterday, talking about his reasoning and how he's been received now rejoining the Gamecock football team. So we'll let you hear some of that and discuss this morning as we continue to roll on. Plenty to get to. Obviously, USC women's basketball back in the Sweet 16 for the 7th time after the 17-point win against Oregon State. They're now moving on to take on number 5 seed Georgia Tech. Gamecock baseball, no problem at all with the Citadel, 8-3. A win last night, back-to-back wins now rolling into the Florida series this weekend, and then a Gamecock football pro day. Plenty of guys on the field today looking to impress the NFL scouts. That's where we start. Glad you're starting your morning with us. 803-404-6100 is the number. You can call or text. Live video stream up and rolling. Facebook Live, YouTube Live. on Twitter, on the station handle as well, at 1075 The Game. It's the early game. All right, Bill's getting ready to work.
Shane Beamer talking about making things better. I got someone else who will make things better for you. How about saving money on your monthly mortgage payment? A mortgage guru can do that for you. That would be one Jacob Crowder with First Palmetto Bank. Give him a phone call this morning. If you're thinking about refinancing, now is the time. 803-719-1005. You can email him as well, the letter J, Crowder, CROWDER at firstpalmetto.com. Jacob's helping people save $300, $400, even $500 on their monthly mortgage payment, and you can be one of those people. You just need to start the process today. You can shoot him a text message even. You can give him a phone call, or, of course, you can email him. But that phone number, 803-719-1005. If you're thinking about buying, it's a great time. I know housing market is hot. Interest rates are low. Now is the time to get in touch with Jacob and see what you can afford and what he can do for you and your family. 803-719-1005. He's the mortgage guru, Jacob Crowder, with First Palmetto Bank. All right, we'll wake up some kids.
Oh, boy.
Everybody pulled for us, having shoes and all of our stuff together this morning.
Morning, everybody, on the live stream. John, Christy, Jason, Stephen, Trey, TJ, Carlton. Oh, Jason supporting your outside linebacker theme there.
Yep. Karen Chris actually is visiting the Cowboys today, too, I think.
Saw that.
But, yeah, that's just what – he could be like a dime linebacker in only in coverage situations, just clogging passing lanes and things like that. That's probably a role that he'll.
Don't you have to at least weigh 215 pounds if you're 6'4" to play linebacker?
The first thing I would do, McClellan can't play at his size right now. The first thing he's going to have to do when he gets to the NFL is gain 20 pounds. Like, if he can't do that, he's not going to last. 205 is too light for what he's going to try and do.
Well, he wants to try to play corner. He says that's his position of that's his natural position. You're just saying that ain't happening, huh?
I'm saying it doesn't look natural. Yeah. He doesn't have the movement skills to cover NFL receivers, I don't think. Maybe he'll prove me wrong, but he moves like he's 6'4".
Well, he is 6'4".
Exactly. But not everybody that to play corner, you can't move like that. You have to be able to move like a wide receiver. If he doesn't completely jam up his wide receiver, it doesn't usually go well for him throughout the rest of the route. And NFL wide receivers are much more physical and able to get off of jams like that.
What was the beverage there? It looked exotic.
Just a coffee.
That's coffee?
Yep.
I've never done one of those things. The cold coffee.
They're okay. I don't think they're good for you. Yeah, they're not good for you.
Oh, did you see this? I just saw this on Twitter. So your boy, the Cinnamon Toast Crunch guy.
Yeah.
You see the news that came out yesterday?
Yeah, he's married to, I think he's a screenwriter. I know that he's married to Topanga.
But you probably never watched that show, right?
I did not watch that show. I just know that people were obsessed with her.
Did you see that, Bill?
What?
That Cinnamon Toast Crunch dude? The guy that found the shrimp tails in there?
Yeah.
He's married to Topanga off of Boy Meets World.
Really?
How about that, huh?
How about that?
That's one of those weird ones that you can say the name of a character from a show, and you're like, oh, yeah, I know who that is.
Yeah, she was a hippie on the show, wasn't she? She was a weird girl.
No, not a hippie at all.
I never got into Boy Meets World. And then they brought it back. They were, what is it, like Family Meets World or something, where they were together and had kids?
I think she hosts a TV show now. Pretty sure. Like a cooking show or something.
Yeah, that sounds right.
She hosts a cooking show?
I think so. I don't know what her name is, so I can't actually look.
What did I see? I saw it sitting here on Twitter. And it was me, maybe. I know she's got the same last name as the dude who found his shrimp tails in the Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Seems fair, yeah.
I don't know how to differentiate Boy Meets World and Saved by the Bell.
What?
That makes sense.
I'm sorry?
Like, I don't know which characters are from which show. I've never seen an episode of either one of them.
I think he's 25 years old. That makes sense, Bill. I would be much more concerned if he was a big fan of either.
Yeah, they might as well be the same thing.
No, they're not the same thing. There's a total difference.
Yeah, I know they're different.
One was,
They're both high school shows from around the same time. That came.
Do you have any audio to play here?
With Boy Meets World centered around a boy, the Saved by the Bell is around an entire school, you know.
Okay, whichever one you want to play, Jen, school with me.
Okay. Can you guys hear that okay? Is the volume too low? You're up.
J.C. Horn, speaking ahead of today's Gamecock Pro Day, explaining his decision about where he was in his life when he opted out at the end of the Gamecock football season. Certainly it's hard to hear that and not feel for the young man and not respect him in his stance of putting family ahead of football at that point. It's just that the timing that goes along with Will Muschamp and company leaving the staff it's easy to see why Gamecock fans got to the place that they got to, and he went on to talk about a bit of a Twitter war and being emotional at the time, and now he's in a better place in the whole thing. But a little insight into at least the thinking of J.C. Horn making that decision and what he's telling, because he's being asked about it. He says everybody asks about it, what he's telling NFL teams. And part of the media session yesterday with Horn and other now former Gamecocks getting ready to perform on Pro Day today was about which teams they've talked to, and it was interesting to hear the different media members covering teams asking their question. It was it was interesting because some of them would say, just wondering if you've talked to the Steelers, 49ers, enter kind of your team there, Eagles, and then some of them would ask a probing question first, like that one, for instance, opting out. What have you been telling teams? And, oh, by the way, have you talked to the Bears? Also how they did it, too. So it was interesting for me to hear, having been someone who covered, the Gamecock for forever now, for a couple of decades, and then to hear these other media characters who just follow, clearly their job is to cover it from the NFL angle, to see how it can be covered differently there. J.C. Horn, Patrick, where do you have him on your big board right now? And what is the likely range? Number 12, I think, got mentioned yesterday. Number 12 overall. And that was maybe the highest I've heard. Is that about you think that might be the highest at this point? And I'm guessing down in the mid to late 20s might be the floor for J.C. Horn at this point in the first round.
Yeah, I think his ceiling would probably be 10 to Dallas or 12 to San Francisco. I think that's a little rich, though. I don't necessarily think San Francisco is going to go corner to start out with. I think 12 is a little high for that, and they do need a quarterback, and they have other needs, so they might be in a position to move up as well. But yeah, if he gets past there, there's going to be a lot of teams in the back half of the first round that would love to have him. I'm sure New England would love to have him at 15 if there's no quarterbacks for them, potentially replacing Stephon Gilmore. I would really like to see him somehow fall to New Orleans. It'd be cool for multiple reasons, playing for the same team his dad played for, and they're going to probably not be able to afford Marshawn Lattimore, so they'll need a number one corner, and matching up against big receivers has always kind of been his MO and where he excels. So, I mean, Julio Jones and Mike Evans and those guys in the division, I think, would be really good twice-a-year matchups for him. So those are some of the teams that I would really like to see him. Green Bay, I think, would be a phenomenal fit for him, but I just think that's kind of a pipe dream for the Packers.
Bill, you gave a strange reaction as Patrick went into that explanation there. I'm seeing on the live videos.
It has nothing to do with sports and or J.C. Horn. It was something remotely different that popped up on the live stream and my debating of Kelly Kapowski and Topanga. But you know, wherever the J.C. Horn falls, look, he's a good player. I think it's going to be interesting, Patrick. I feel like where J.C. Horn is drafted is dependent upon how the quarterbacks fall in this draft. It's one of those things where I guess where you're at on the big board, because J.C. Horn yesterday saying things that I completely understand why he's saying about being the best defensive player in the draft. But as you just kind of pointed out, it's really going to come down to a team's needs and maybe best available player. Because I feel like once you get past about 10, this draft's just going to get very wacky and hard to figure out with who's going to be drafted where. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, there's a couple spots that are really going to decide a lot. Like, all these guys are going to probably be hoping that quarterbacks go early. Like Mac Jones is the one that nobody really knows. Some people think he's going to be a top 10 pick. Some people think he'll be at the end of the first round. I've seen people even think that I think Mel Kiper's last mock draft had him. I think it had him falling all the way to 32 and being drafted to get groomed under Tom Brady in Tampa Bay. So like that, the quarterbacks, Kyle Trask could be a first round pick. Like there's all sorts of things that nobody knows about the quarterbacks. So that will determine a lot. But JC's, I think, locked into the first round. I think there's three corners that seem to be locked in the first round. That's Caleb Farley and Patrick Surtain, who ran much faster than the people thought he would yesterday, which is probably going to be big for his stock. I think he might end up being the first corner taken because he's definitely the most polished. People were just kind of concerned about his athleticism translating, and I think he kind of put some of those questions to bed yesterday. So I would say Patrick Surtain will be one, but J.C. Horn's a first round block, I would think.
Yeah, like I said, I think he's definitely a first round. Like I think it's just a matter of, and you pointing that out with Kyle Trask and Mac Jones and how teams elect to attack this draft and what they see. Maybe you see him going closer to 10 or closer to say 20 because of teams just making certain decisions. Devontae Smith's out there. It's to me, listening to you and then just doing a little bit of reading that I have, it's just an odd draft from that standpoint. You've got some teams that are kind of like your Washington football organization that go in where I think they feel okay about what they have, but they can attack several different needs at different positions, and it might not be cornerback and drafting a JC Horn. You might be able to get a player that you like better just in a different position.
Yeah, and all these guys want to go as early as possible. I think was it JC? I think it was JC that made the comment though that guys don't realize that after you get drafted, you actually still have to play. I think was one of his comments. Right. So I think in the long run, he would potentially be happy if he fell further than he might like come draft day. Like if he did fall, he was asked about the Bills, he was asked about the Packers. Like if he fell to either of those teams, I think he would ultimately probably be pretty happy that ended up breaking for him that way, because he'd be on a Super Bowl contender right away and he'd be getting instant playing time, because there are a few contenders at the end of the first round that really need like an alpha corner that JC would definitely be able to fill in right away. Saints, Packers, Bills, all three would fit that.
A couple of things. Bill, you mentioned Patrick's Washington football team. Did I see yesterday that they're considering just going mascotless? They're just going to keep that Washington football team name.
Not
what are your boys doing?
It's not really what happened. That was the headline that got grabbed. They're
Media
still
hype.
taking, there's like a long process, and they're taking submissions from fans. I think they said until April 5th, and then they'll go into another process of breaking them down. So I think Jason Wright, the president, basically just said everything is open. So if the fans overwhelmingly said we want to keep Washington football team, and that's what was submitted, then that would happen. But it's highly unlikely. That's definitely not going to happen. But
I do kind of like the idea
to run with.
I kind of like the idea of everybody of some soliciting a bunch of opinions and putting them out there, and then just after that, just saying, no, this all stinks. You guys haven't come up with a good one.
I wouldn't care. I mean, it's going to be hard for me to build a relationship with whatever mascot they pick. I'll just be the Washington football team and associate with the city. Washington. I'll just say Washington. That's just what we are.
Have you got any? What is it? WFT gear like that? That's gonna be kind of.
Yeah, but I when I saw that they were going to roll with it for next year too, I didn't rush as much. But I do need to make sure that I get some before it's taken off the shelves, because that will probably be valuable.
Collector, yeah.
Not much. They don't really sell much that says Washington football team, though. It all just kind of has the W. That's our new logo.
I'm sure they'll figure out a way to maximize some merchandise here soon, especially if they're planning on changing that thing, which it seems like it's classic, isn't it? That Washington D.C. can't figure out how to make a change there without a lot of red tape, a lot of issues.
I think they would really like for there to be a new owner who gets to make that decision.
Right, that makes sense. A couple of other things that you were mentioning there, I thought it was really interesting hearing Horn kind of put the draft in perspective. Basically saying the way that it gets talked about, it's kind of an end-all, be-all with the NFL draft, like you referenced there, Patrick, as opposed to, hey, we'll see in a couple of years how it works out. And I could feel kind of the chip on his shoulder, his competitive edge there. And it also leads to the text on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line from anonymous texter says, I personally don't think the guys that opted out should be able to participate in Pro Day. I understand that from a, I guess, philosophical standpoint, but you also have to understand that the long-term implications here, that it's good for the University of South Carolina to have a relationship with a guy who's going to be a first-round pick. And not just he, but other guys who are going off to the NFL. And I understand it ended poorly. But you don't want to come off as ungrateful to guys who did put in a bunch of years and a bunch of blood, sweat, and tears. And what's the downside for letting guys back on the field and work out on Pro Day? I don't see the downside there. But it does lead to an interesting discussion, I think. And Shi Smith was asked particularly about his legacy, what legacy he leads in South Carolina. That was another interesting reaction on the podium yesterday.
Did you also hear what he and Debo talk about? Because I talk to Debo all the time. We talk about football and money.
Yeah. That surprises you?
That's what you talk about? You talk about football and money? That's the main discussion, is football and money.
Talk about an easy headline-grabbing move. He was talking about how Deebo Samuel took him under his wing. So that makes sense. If you're in Shi Smith's position right now, you're going to talk to a guy who has been through it before about the best way to go about handling things. And that would be my top priority as well if I'm Shi Smith. I admire the honesty.
I mean, it is honesty, yeah, but I was just thinking, we talk all the time, just kind of update each other and how the families are doing, how everybody is. Like, Debo asked me about my kid and, like, all these things. Like, no, we just talk about football and money. All right, that's cool.
I mean,
I guess.
What else is there to talk about, right?
Movies,
run and go routes and buying a chain. That's what it's all about there, right?
But the relationship that these guys will have with kind of Gamecock football fans and how they'll be remembered, I think, is a really interesting spot just because of how it ended and just the rocky tenure, man. The few years that they were Gamecock football, rough few years from the Gamecock fan perspective, and now I think there's almost like a a catch-22 from the Gamecock fan perspective, pulling for these guys in the NFL. It will only remind you of some bad years of Gamecock football and maybe talent unrealized or what could have been had they been utilized in a different way. Do you understand what I'm getting at there, Patrick?
Yeah, I do think, I don't know how long the way the season ended will linger with people. Like, by the end of the season, we were saying that anyone criticizing J.C. Horn should be equally as adamant in their praise of Shi Smith for fighting out the season the way he did. I don't know how long people will remember that, or if they'll just look back 10 years from now and say, oh, yeah, that was really bad, and the fact that they opted out will just kind of be a different, like just a detail that gets lost in the minutia of how bad the Muschamp years were. But it is an interesting question. I don't know how I would have answered that if I was Shi Smith, what his legacy would be.
Yeah, I think that's the one you just say. I'm a player. I play. You guys can talk about all that kind of stuff and figure it out. Lee hits us up, Cool Care Heating and Air text line. I think that Ernest Jones and Israel Mukwamu should have stayed another year, he says. I feel both will end up on practice squads. Jones had too many injuries. I would make the argument that if injuries are a big concern, then you go ahead and you punch your ticket and you make your money while you can. And make sure that you don't have another one that precludes you from doing that. Bill, I saw you throwing up your hands there. Are we missing shoes over there on the way to school this morning again? Is the couch eating them up?
All kinds of stuff going on over here.
That sounds about right. We'll let you get a handle on that. We need to take a break anyway. 803-404-6100 if you'd like to call or text. It's the early game here on 107.5 The Game.
I got nothing, right? I don't have anything, right? All right, let's go try and put out some of these fires real quick.
Yeah, man, feel free to jet if you need to. All right, what are we betting it is this time, Patrick? Have we heard? I didn't hear yet.
Hold on, he looked very exasperated. I don't know what it could have been.
Oh, I was there last night going to the first coach pitch game. The 6 and 8 year old are on the same team. I was supposed to also fill up the little cooler bag and bring the drinks, the Gatorades, and that was my least concern, having to hand out uniforms before the game and the whole thing. I had to call my wife. I forgot the drinks. She was like, "Are you serious?"
There's only drinks. You can just run around all that.
They got there. Don't worry. They got there. All right, our buddy's back in this morning. 2 texts already.
Yeah.
Some bad years of Gamecock football. You've only had 3 good years in your existence. It will always be bad. I can only laugh. If you're just joining us or unfamiliar, we have one specific texter these days that just absolutely sends in the most bitter texts. We always ignore relaying them on the radio.
He was active yesterday. He just hasn't texted us.
Right. It's apparently there's a thing called negative attention, Patrick. My wife educated me on this with kids. That kids will act out just to get attention. I feel like that's what this and a lot of social media is from people.
Well, we don't give it the attention, but
try not to. Sometimes I slip and I'm moving too fast and I'll mention one. But I think that keeps them going.
let's see when the last time somebody texted him back was.
Yeah, he'll write him back every now and again.
Heath is learning. It's been a little while, but Heath can't help himself. It's actually been a good while since he texted back, it looks like.
Attaboy, Heath. course, Chris thinks Washington needs a mascot. Cowboys fan. An interesting take there from DM. I think Bill was confused about the timing, maybe. Generation. Jonathan, a little territorial. Interesting psychological analysis there, Craig. And no, it clearly seems like he is a Clemson fan. Just not too clear about that usually.
Are we talking about the serial texter?
Yeah, sure are.
Did he send more?
Yeah, a couple this morning.
Oh,
The Kelly Kapowski and Topanga, is it Topanga or Topanga?
Topanga.
It's a perfect example of why it's not like either one of those could be from either one of the shows. I could have easily Topanga could have been from Saved by the Bell. Kelly Kapowski could have been from Boy Meets World, and I have no idea.
Yeah, it's
I'm okay with that. From
a
your
little
perspective.
before your time, I guess. I cannot lose my cool over the
It was
fact
before I was born.
before your time because Kelly Kapowski. See, I disagree. Who was that? Who was that earlier? Who said that Topanga was number 2? Topanga's no way. Topanga was number 2.
I'm sorry.
What would you label that? Teen stars of the 90s? Teen stars?
Something like that.
I would say Kelly Kapowski.
Kelly Kapowski was definitely number 1. I don't think there was any question.
What was Christina Applegate in?
Married with Children.
Yeah.
And that was a kind of a different genre because that was clearly not aimed towards kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just see a picture with the 3 of them in it.
Oh yeah, that's interesting.
I just Google image Topanga versus Kelly Kapowski, and one of them has her.
Now I'm just trying to think back honestly now to shows kind of that I grew up watching like that.
Feel like this is the previous generations, like Marianne, or what's the other one on Gilligan's Island? Ginger or Marianne?
Marianne, yeah.
Nobody wanted Mrs. Howell.
Well, she already had a lovey.
Oh wow! Somebody watched a little bit too much Gilligan's Island.
Came on it but that
Yes.
and Bonanza. Hey, I've got a strong connection to Bonanza because it came on from 7:05 to 8:05 before WCW wrestling every Saturday morning. So I'd catch the last 15 minutes of Bonanza from 7:50 to 8:05 before 8:05 WCW wrestling.
Oh,
Yeah.
Head back in.
Jason, that's a great point, Jason. Our apologies for not mentioning Winnie. Let's play number 2 coming back, please, Jim.
Yeah, Winnie Cooper. Yeah, I don't have Topanga up there. I got to go back and look at some of the shows that I watched.
J.C. Horn speaking ahead of today's Gamecock Pro Day yesterday. Multiple interesting comments there, and that one especially. You mentioned going up against Julio Jones. One of you guys was talking about that earlier. He said that was his guy. That's kind of the greatest of all time in his mind, and a guy he would love to go up against. And all these guys, when they were asked yesterday, I think did a good job of giving the stock professional answer about do you have a preference of what team you would go to. And Horn specifically asked about his dad playing for the Saints and if he would prefer to go somewhere where his dad played and the whole thing. He said, man, he just wants to play. And that's what you got to say these days, right?
He said, would it mean anything to you? He said, no.
Well, you know how it can be spun. You're talking about grabbing Washington football team headlines. You know how it could be spun if he came out and said, yeah, that would mean a lot to me if I could play in the same NFL uniform that my dad did. And then the headline would be, Horn prefers Saints over anyone else, or whatever, something ridiculous would be. You know how your boys do it this time of year.
Yep.
I mean, Adam Schefter and Daniel Jeremiah would have been fighting over who got that headline out first.
No, that's not what the draft people do. They just evaluate what would be the best fit. That's what the writers do. That's what like Peter King or somebody like that would write, not Jeremiah.
Do you think you would rather not do that in the pros as opposed to college? Like, I feel like you'd be more willing to follow your father's footsteps in football to his college as opposed to the NFL to his professional team.
Well, you don't really get the choice in the NFL, I think.
Well, you can. So at free agency, you can. I mean, after you're not in the draft, you're right.
Could transfer.
Well,
what about a transfer there, Patrick?
I don't know. I'm
30.
not really understanding.
You don't have a lot of
the same thing.
I don't know. I thought there's a reason. I was reading about a recruit last night that South Carolina's in on, and his father played at Penn State as an offensive lineman, Ryan Brubaker, and he was talking about the
15.
legacy. And then listening to J.C. Horn talk about it just got me thinking.
Oh, pondering. Very philosophical this morning. We'll see if
I'll
we
do it while I'm taking the
think
kids to school.
in hour number 2, or we might talk about bananas. Who knows?
No. Ooh.
Clear.
Well, or you can talk about powdered donuts, to which Austin just got into, which is great to have right before you go to school.
Better than if he's home with you all day.
What?
Better than if he's home with you and he's sugared up at school, not with you.
I eat healthy. Last night we had fish tacos. What'd you do?
I was talking about him having powdered donuts and you're sending him off to school, so you don't have to deal with the ramifications.
Oh yeah. The teachers get the powdered donut. Well, I was just talking about trying to get them ready and out the door and covered in powdered sugar.
Brush
It's a
him
good
off.
school.
It's windy.
All right, I'll be back.
Good luck, Sarah. Fish tacos aren't healthy. What the crap?
What do you mean fish tacos aren't healthy? It was mahi. Yeah, I don't have time for this. I'll be back.
Attaboy, JM. Get him going.
I had
Mike-
barbecue against my better judgment.
How you cook the fish? What's that?
I had barbecue for dinner against my better judgment.
Barbecue against your better judgment? What do you mean?
I feel like I'm going to have a lot of barbecue this weekend. I have a bunch of friends coming down, and I can just tell that they're coming from the Northeast, and the first thing they want to do is get barbecue.
This sounds like a great weekend you have on tap. What's? I don't see the problem.
Once a week is enough for me.
How about? But you could eat crab. I'm guessing every day.
I can eat crab every day. I can eat fried chicken every day. I can eat pizza every day. Not barbecue. For some reason, I kind of have to be in a barbecue mood.
What about hamburger tacos? Well done, Chris.
Those are not good for you.
That's another T-shirt. We should do that 107.5 The Game logo on the front, sponsored by Hamburger Tacos on the back.
Hamburger taco Tuesday.
Yeah, I'm guessing he didn't catch the mahi in Lake Murray there, David.
Fish tacos are healthy, though, right?
Yeah, I think they're pretty healthy. I guess if
it's probably not healthy, but
you fry the fish, maybe not as much, and maybe if you throw, I don't know what you would throw in there that's not necessarily healthy.
salsa.
Yeah, also lettuce, guac, all pretty good. I do love the idea of just ending every text, every video chat with "what the crap." And yes, Chris, we do have to get into Peach Cobbler today. That was the move. But I would say that the spelling of that has to change too. Got a TV buddy. Always would call it Cobbler, a couple of TV buddies with an A at the end, I think.
What's the peach cobblers?
I think that's what was the suggestion yesterday after the banana pudding discussion. Banana pudding. That the peach cobbler is the real southern dessert of choice, especially if you're going to go barbecue. Shrimp tacos, classy, Chris, classy. It's the shell on the tacos that isn't healthy. Okay, Bill.
Whatever. The croutons in a salad aren't healthy either, but
The what?
the croutons in a salad aren't healthy either, but
Yeah,
still, the grand scheme of things, not bad for you.
it's a delivery device. The shell is the devil. Wow. I'm sure you can find some kind of a spinach wrap or something to make you feel a little better about it.
They have corn tortillas. Those are good for you. Flour tortillas are not as good, but they're
Correct spelling there, John. Well done. Well done. And I've never heard of what you were talking about, the show there. I know that's way before Patrick's time. Anybody remember the show Code Red back in the day on USA before WWF and after Kung Fu? That is specific. Hadn't got any takers yet.
I don't think I watched any shows on like the major networks growing up.
Jen, I think we're off here. Thank you. We got Jen hard at work on a bunch of sound from yesterday and doing it with one hand tied behind the back with different software in the studio.
Are we?
What's that?
Sometimes I can't tell when people are like playing along with a joke or just, I don't know.
Tone can't. That's why texting is a primitive form of communication, Patrick.
Yeah, that's the one I was talking about.
Oh, we're getting all kinds of random now. Everybody's throwing out random TV shows. Love it.
Everything I watched as a kid was Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network.
Nickelodeon or what?
Or Cartoon Network. Or Disney.
Yeah, I had the Kids Incorporated on Disney when it was Fergie, before she was Fergie.
Black Eyed Peas Burger?
Yeah, she was in Kids Incorporated, a Disney show.
Whoa.
Whatever, I think her last name is Ferguson, and that's how she became Fergie.
That makes sense. Sir Alex Ferguson was the manager of Manchester United, and for a long time they called him Fergie.
It's a great nickname. Great sports nickname. Let's see that. What else would you put up there? Gilly's always a good one, I think. Got Gillespie or something like that. Gilly, very similar. Fergie.
Yeah. I mean, that was...
Smitty, for all the Smiths out there.
Yeah, playing
Jonesy.
rough Canadians, around Canadians, that's what they do for everyone.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Were you Petey? Perry? You were Perry.
Very,
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Laugh Olympics. Nice, John.
Cartoon Express. What's Cartoon Express?
Who played Marcia in the Brady Bunch movies? That was that Ben Stiller's wife?
Christine, somebody.
Ex-wife.
Taylor?
Yeah, that's right. Well done. You know Ren and Stimpy at all, Patrick?
Yeah, what are they, a cat and a dog, and they just do very dumb things. I've never seen it. I know I'd recognize them. I don't know which one's which.
Jen, can we do number 5, please, to start?
Yeah, we've actually got through 9, so okay, 5.
Thank
Was
you.
the one a rat or a chihuahua?
You got me.
Yep.
That's JC Horn, Gamecock corner, looking to go, or projected to go in the first round, looking to improve his draft stock today at Gamecock Football Pro Day. You'll have some timing done, some drills done. You see Cedarius Hutcherson asked about his weight room prowess and if he had any kind of projections for what he's going to do today. And he said he was asked specifically about the bench press. He said he didn't know the exact number, but it's going to be in the 30s. He's a guy that seems like he can raise some eyebrows with a good workout or some of these numbers at this time. You know, they're just those guys. There are combine guys, and unfortunately for those combine guys this year, there wasn't a combine. This is the closest they're going to get to it, these pro days and the drills they'll be able to do. I think there are some GMs and coaches set to be in Columbia today for the Gamecock Pro Day, so it's not how it has been in years past, but it's a lot better than last year when you had nothing. And it will be, I think, a large enough showcase for plenty of guys today to do what they need to do to impress the guys who matter at this time, Patrick. And I know you pay a lot of attention to it, and clearly it's not the only story today. And from a USC women's basketball perspective, not the biggest story at all, with the Carolina women now making their 7th straight Sweet 16 after a 17-point win last night over Oregon State, where they got the post player from Oregon State in foul trouble early on, and they got the team that led the country with 41% from 3 per game to shoot a terrible percentage, 3 out of 19. And even though Carolina shot 1 out of 15 from 3, it didn't really matter. They went on a 20-2 run. Aaliyah Boston leading the way points-wise with 19, 7 rebounds. I think it was Letitia Amaher during that run that was kind of doing a lot of the work down low, especially. And the Gamecocks continue to roll on, and Dawn Staley just doing what she has just made an annual thing and made it look easy, Patrick. That's the thing, right? And I think that does kind of add to the frustration. It's not fair necessarily from the men's perspective, but to see Dawn Staley do it year in and year out, and now she's got 4 McDonald's All-Americans to add to the fold for next year and the whole thing. It's just it is a program that is on a different level from a lot of other programs out there, than maybe 3 or 4, I would guess it would be the most you could put in there in women's college basketball. And you could certainly argue there is no other program right now doing it quite how the Carolina women are. You agree with my assessment there that it almost grizzles some fans because to see that success while you're not seeing NCAA tournaments on the men's side?
Oh, I know it grizzles people because I've seen it on the text lines too. People get salty, but I mean they just make it look easy. That's just what the women do. I mean, yesterday it looked easy. When you win by 17 and you shoot 6% from 3, I mean, you're doing something right. I don't know if that worries people going forward that they were ice cold from 3-point line, but the one thing that I see that I do feel really good about is 14 of 18 from the free throw line, because that has been a bugaboo for them at times, not being able to close games by making free throws when they really need them. If you're going to win a national championship or win enough games to get to the Final Four, that's going to be really important. Rarely do you see a team miss a bunch of free throws during March Madness and keep surviving and advancing. But you gotta get your free points when you have the opportunity. And 14 of 18 is probably about as good as they've done most of this year.
Now moving on to take on number 5 seed Georgia Tech in the Sweet 16. Also a 17-point winner, I believe, yesterday in their 4-5 matchup against West Virginia. Will be an interesting speed bump maybe, or the next obstacle on the road to the Final Four for USC women's basketball. Dawn Staley asked about some of her statements that she and a lot of others have made and the difference between the women's and the men's tournament. We'll let you hear some of that as we continue to roll on this morning. Wanted to touch on Carolina baseball, though, first, especially if you're just waking up this morning. Gamecocks 8-3 over the Citadel last night. Will Sanders setting the tone on the mound. 5 innings, was 1 hit. It was a solo home run. Struck out a career-high 10, and the Gamecocks scoring, I think, 7 out of those 8. Maybe it was all 8 early on. I think it was a 5-run inning, a 2, and a 1, so it might have been all 8 runs really early and cruising to the win. Wes Clark adding to his national lead of home runs this season with 11, and then Florida comes to town this weekend. Can't talk about this win without referencing what happened last week, and Mark Kingston saying the reason why he threw Will Sanders 5 innings is because he hadn't gotten enough good pitching on Tuesday. They've been trying to go more the whole staff approach and letting everybody get some work and try to have a bid of a competition to see where they fit in on the depth chart and where they might get in on the weekend, but it hadn't been good enough. And last week when you'd lose 9-4 to Davidson at home, coming off a weekend sweep at Texas, it put the Gamecocks in a bad spot from a momentum standpoint for sure, and just a record standpoint going into the weekend with Vanderbilt. So an adjustment made by the coaching staff. Clearly it worked out well, but again, midweek games, just like we were saying last week, aren't going to be the end-all be-all. They're a strange thing in college baseball, but certainly much better to have what you saw last night for the Gamecocks than what you saw a week ago. And now coming off back-to-back wins, taking a little bit of positive momentum into a very difficult series, but it will be at home this weekend against Florida. Patrick, I think Bill pointing out earlier that they're ranked number 5 in the country in the D1 baseball poll. Vandy moved up to number 1. You got 3 other SEC teams, 2 through 4. Making it all top 5 again in D1Baseball.com's poll.
So I know Florida's really good, but I think you feel a lot better going into this series off of a couple wins, especially when you know going into last weekend on Friday and Saturday, you're going to be facing pitchers that will probably both be at worst top 10 picks in the Major League Baseball draft. Now, I don't know. I assume Florida's got some really good pitchers, but the name value's not there. Are they very intimidating as well?
Absolutely. Maybe not quite what Rocker and Leiter are, because I don't think anybody is, and maybe no one has been in college baseball. You got to go back to the Garrett Cole, Trevor Bauer days of UCLA when Carolina won that national championship series against them in 2010. But they're right there. I mean, they had 2 guys I think that might have been first round picks opt to come back to school this year. So there's plenty of talent there. Craig says not wet blanketing, but this team does strike out a lot. Concern against elite pitching. You guys saw the numbers last weekend, right? That was the incredible part about that series. Vanderbilt struck out 43 batters for the Gamecocks in 3 games. So averaging, what is that, 14 point something, 14.3? You see how many batters that Carolina struck out, Patrick?
If it's shocking, it's probably more.
It was 42. It was 1 behind. So I hear what you're saying, Craig, but I think you do have to kind of make the adjustment in your perspective to understand that's just what baseball is these days. And especially in the big leagues, especially. I mean, the strikeout numbers are astronomical the last several years. I think it only makes sense that you see a bit of a trickle-down effect. And if South Carolina pitching wasn't striking out guys, then I think you're massively concerned. It will be a little bit more interesting for me to see what kind of challenge Florida presents, because Vandy went into last weekend with only 5 guys having any SEC experience. You know, it's the weird year where you had no SEC games last year. So that number a lot lower than it typically would be for any program. But Vandy on the high side of inexperienced guys, and they didn't play like a lot of those guys were seeing their first SEC weekend. I think this is where you got to feel good, having had back-to-back weekends now of elite competition with Texas and Vanderbilt, that there's not going to be any kind of big-time adjustment having to be made. Mark Kingston pointed it out last night after the game that the Citadel threw a bunch of guys that were hitting 92, 93 on the radar gun last night. So that's just what college baseball is these days. And the Gamecocks going to see a lot more elite pitching over the weekend. We'll see how they respond and see if they can continue to be this team of runs that we talked about in the last hour, Patrick, about 11 straight wins, 6 straight losses. Now it's back-to-back wins for Carolina back on the good side of things. We'll see if they can keep it going against Florida. That kind of totally changes, I think, the outlook on the season if you can get it rolling and get a big series win here against a really good team.
Yeah, and you just hope that they feel comfortable at home and can take the series, because you talk about two awesome opponents the last 2 weekends. You're in Austin, unfamiliar ballpark, and then you're in Nashville with 2 of the best pitchers in the country. I mean, it just hasn't been easy. You hope that they can just be home all week, get comfortable, be ready on Friday night in their home stadium. There will be fans there. I think it's going to be a good environment. It has been the few games that I've seen on TV at Williams-Brice or at Founders Park. So yeah, you just hope that they're comfortable, and it's a great team. But start it off Friday night and try to get a win.
Jeremy says, is Rocker from Vanderbilt related to the famous John Rocker from the Braves? Might be a dumb question. That's for everyone else to decide, I guess. Not related to John Rocker, is very closely related to former Gamecock defensive line coach Tracy Rocker. He's his son and is going to be a very wealthy man very soon. We'll be interested to keep tabs on him to see what he can continue to do. He and Jack Leiter both, who is the son of former Major Leaguer Al Leiter, who has a Major League no-hitter to his credit, and now his son has the college baseball no-hitter, the second one in recent memory here for Vanderbilt baseball, because Rocker did it as a true freshman in Super Regional against Duke a couple of years ago. 803-404-6100 is the number. Love to hear from you, whether you'd like to call or text us. You can also join in on the live chat on the live video stream sponsored by Buford Lending, up and rolling on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and on Twitter at 1075 The Game, the station handle where you can find the live video on Twitter. Plenty more to discuss as well as we continue to roll on. The Les Miles saga, one more shoe drops there in college football. Another program not too far away from us, and one that we talked about several times, has to hit pause because of COVID issues here in spring football. And we'll discuss more, let you hear more from guys at Gamecock Pro Day today, trying to make some money and put up some impressive times, and being asked about some of their exits at Carolina and some of the issues that have gone on in the last several years. So a lot on the table for us. Glad you're a part of the program here on a Wednesday morning. We're nearing the halfway point of our show, which means the halfway point of the week is about to begin for a lot of you. It's the early game. It's 107.5 The Game. You got the TV going over there? Because it looks like you're kind of a man just sitting in an empty room with your lacrosse sticks and Kramer.
Yes. I'm watching.
I'm guessing you got the print there. What is the print of again? It's leaning against the wall. You don't have hung up yet?
It's one stadium from.
I just know that the prints are already available for the Founders Park, Palmetto State imprint in the grass there. I saw that they're up and available. Justin Scurry and company getting some national love, I saw on social media yesterday too, as well they should. I'm just thinking there'll be a lot of prints of that, kind of like you have right there, of the baseball field moving forward, because it has the city behind it as well. A nice day with some picturesque clouds. Good stuff.
I can guarantee a lot of people have this exact same thing. It's the one that's most readily available. I think they're playing ECU.
East Carolina?
It looks like it. All I can see is no, it's not LSU.
makes sense, I think. I'll look at it.
Purple and gold.
$2012, you said, huh? I'm looking it up right now.
That's what it says.
Yeah, East Carolina, September 8th. 48-10 was the final score. Oh, that was Dylan Thompson's first start, I believe.
Whoa.
He dominated. Sophomore, just stepping in. I think Connor Shaw was banged up after Vanderbilt the week before. I think he had hurt his back or something. Nice. Yeah, just do that all show. It'll look good.
I mean, they have strips on it, but they just don't stick because it's warped in the middle, so
Gotcha.
it always pushes the whole thing out.
You just need to find a warped wall to put it on.
Yeah, use more than one strip, or more than two strips, so you spread it out.
Get a framed one.
So, Jen, whatever audio you want to come back with, I'm cool. It's cool with me. Should
Okay.
probably let me read a liner first. Which one do you think you'll go with? I'll try to lead into it semi-professionally.
I don't know. You want to hear from Dawn?
Okay.
Kingston?
Yep. I'm good with that. You gonna go her first one or her second one?
I think her first one.
Okay. Oh, Craig's looking for an invite. Looks like socially, Patrick. You heard your boys from back home coming in town. He's looking to crash the party, I think.
Boys from college. It's actually, and some of their parents. It's actually Dad's weekend for the fraternity, and I have one of my best friend's little brothers is still in it. So his dad's coming down.
Sounds like mayhem.
It will be.
Chris, well done on the stats for us. Good stuff. 3.39 strikeout to walk ratio, 19th in the country for Florida. 9 spots behind Vandy. Pretty dang good.
I'm seeing the looks like one of the Barstool accounts posted the picture of the baseball stadium with 164,000 followers.
Strong. Yeah, a lot of love.
I mean, that's just, it looks awesome. It looks unbelievable.
It's Photoshop. Completely looks Photoshop to me.
Hi, guys, are up.
Just talking about the grounds crew over at Founders Park. Weaving in, that's probably a terrible way to put it, right? You're not basket weavers. Cutting in. Jen, how do you even put it? Sculpting in, landscaping in the design yesterday. How would you put it? You're the yard expert, not me.
I don't. To me, it's you're carving it in almost.
Okay.
But I don't know if that's right. Carving or cutting.
As long as there's not a specific word there, Patrick, any idea? Just mowing it in? I don't know what exactly you would say, but coming up with putting the design of the South Carolina state flag, the Palmetto state flag there, right in the middle of center field, along with the beautiful lines and the whole thing,
There had
made
to
it
be a
look
template or
amazing.
something.
I don't believe that Justin Scurry and those guys did it.
Like a big stencil?
I think it was like crop circles, like aliens did it.
I love that someone might just be listening in for the first time this morning and heard you, and they're like, they get all upset. What? He's saying that they didn't do it. Just kidding, people. Just kidding. Mowing the palmetto tree, Craig suggests on the Facebook live stream. I mentioned that just to say that we are certainly spoiled to be able to see a stadium field, a baseball field in that kind of playing condition, especially here in March. But that's the standard at South Carolina, and Williams-Brice Stadium has always been kept up tremendously. And now you're going to be able to get the old wedge going at Williams-Brice. You won't be taking up chunks of the turf there, I don't think, but you will be able to experience the Top Golf live at Williams-Brice. Top Golf live going across iconic stadiums in the country, and we'll be at Williams-Brice April 8th through the 11th. You can go over to 1075thegame.com right now and register for a chance to win a free pair of tickets to tee off at 6 p.m. on Saturday, April 10th. Wanted to give you a chance to listen to a little bit of Dawn Staley's post-game comments last night after a 17-point win. Makes it 7 straight Sweet 16s for the USC women. The NCAA women's tournament and the amenities in the bubble in Texas being brought up a lot here recently. And you know Dawn Staley is not going to shy away from any kind of controversy, but especially something where she feels like she has to stick up for her game. Here, part of her comments last night and the difference in what the women and the men are experiencing these days.
We're at the NCAA tournament, and we see stark differences of what the men's tournament looks like. And if you see that, you need to speak out. I mean, it is, very simple. We want our players to enjoy the experience. They know players on the other side in Indianapolis that are, having the time of their lives. And, we're here, and they're missing out on certain things.
Dawn Staley, again, asked about this after the game last night, did not bring this up on her own, and her team's performance, tremendous. Her platform is tremendous in basketball at large. It was Friday after our show. I believe she put out a pretty lengthy social media post, and it's kind of in the form of a letter, I think, about her thoughts in detail. And I also thought it was interesting, Patrick, that she says she's not talking to her team about it right now. That's not what they need to be concerned about. They need to be worried about keeping Oregon State, the leading three-pointing team in the country, off the three-point line. And Aaliyah Boston saying that her message to the team was make them beat you with twos and not threes. And clearly they did that. They shot 3 of 19 from 3 last night. Carolina getting their best post player, the Oregon State best post player, in foul trouble early on and going on a 20-2 run to kind of ice the game away. But what do you make of that conversation right now between men's and women's basketball? Because I think you see it at 25 years old much differently than I do at 43. I think you and the generation kind of younger than me sees women's basketball as much closer to what it is today than what it was when I was growing up, and the games have leveled off, or the popularity has leveled off. What Dawn Staley has done from an attendance standpoint, obviously this year withstanding because of the COVID issues, but getting 10,000 plus fans in the Colonial Life Arena every single game for years and years and years. If you would have told me that's going to happen while I was going to school in the late 90s at South Carolina, I would have told you, first of all, I would have asked what the Colonial Life Arena was. Secondly, I would have been very, very confused and told you never in a million lifetimes could have that been possible. And yet it is reality. And I think that's why you're seeing the conversation, part of the reason why you're seeing the conversation where it is with the women's tournament versus the men's tournament these days.
Yeah, I think there's no university or fan base that realizes how much the women's game has grown better than South Carolina fans. But I think Dawn was spot on. It was a good way to handle it with the kind of open letter type deal on Twitter. And the pictures were bad. It's like they had one rack of dumbbells for the entire women's tournament. And then the NCAA screwed it up by saying, oh, we just did that because there was a limitation on space. And then somebody just zooms out from the picture and there's a whole empty, I don't even know what it looked. It was like a giant warehouse or airport hangar or something there. It was massive, and there was a ton of space. And you could have. They should have known that was going to be the case when they set it up and said, yeah, this is probably enough. The men's could have still been bigger because it's a bigger tournament. There's more people there, more teams, media people there. Like, it's just when you have a massive, like, Olympic-sized weight room versus one rack of dumbbells, it's like, how could you not expect them to be unhappy with this? Like, they can't actually do anything there. You want them to just do a couple curls while they get ready for their game? Like, this is just not... just dumb. NCAA just got it wrong. Simple as that.
And then didn't fess up to it, basically, as well. And was called out. And then called out again. There's not a better... I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I think there's something... There is this in all of us that loves when authority gets called out, and then maybe it's like that American spirit, right? To fight against authority and pull for the underdog or the person who doesn't have the power in the situation. But when I saw that video as well, saying, oh, they said there's not enough space, and then you just pan over. And it's like that aha moment in a lot of movies, at the end. It was not quite the usual suspects and Kaiser Sose, but it's something like that. It was like, you weasels.
I mean, what did they think?
I don't know how else to put it.
They think that the person couldn't just take a step to the right and take a picture of the empty space right behind the one rack.
It's one thing to be weaselly; it's another thing to be dumb, right? I mean, and to see the clear evidence that you're called out for that. Good for the players, first of all, for doing this, because we just got an awful text in that I will not repeat, but the sentiment was that there is a sense of entitlement from the players and in the women's game, and because revenues don't match up, that it's kind of ridiculous. Well, the text was ridiculous, and I'm not going to repeat the whole thing, Jim. But there is that general sentiment in our country right now that there is too much entitlement. We all get that, Jen, right? You have a son who's played sports and kind of grew up in the participation trophy era, and so I'm sure you've seen some examples of that. I have seen, we talk about all the time with the transfers, with people opting out, guys leaving for the pros early. Clearly, college athletics has changed. And there are some that do have a bit of a sense of entitlement. This is not it. This having a stack of dumbbells for a weight room facility at a major tournament, when you see the men's version of that with a typical major college athletic weight room. I mean,
exactly. Seriously, they couldn't trade out with a manufacturer to get a bunch of weights to put in there and a better setup. Like, there's so many ways to do it without it costing money. So it doesn't matter what the revenue generated by the women is. They could have made it work. There are some savvy people in the NCAA, or one would think. Especially
when you're asking them they're in a bubble. You're asking them to do nothing all day, just stay in this one facility until their game, and they have nothing to do except for probably just work out and like read a book in their room or something like that. And that's what they have to work with. However many hundreds of girls are there they can just pass around the dumbbells whenever they're done.
Have like a pillow fight or something. That's probably what the morons are thinking.
I saw somebody from Dick's Sporting Goods said a viral tweet that said like, "Hey, let's make this happen," but I mean, it shouldn't come to that in the first place. But do you think that they get it situated yet or no?
Yeah, I've seen video now of that empty space being filled with weight room equipment and the whole. That's not the larger issue. If you're just stuck on that, or you're stuck on the specific numbers the tournaments bring in, all you need to know is there were tons of basketball games available to watch on ESPN here in the last several days. That is a money-making venture. And even if it is not a $1 billion contract with CBS and TBS and the whole thing, it doesn't mean that it's okay to be ignored or to not even, I mean, just from a PR perspective. Right. Hey, dummies.
It looks very blatant.
It just looked dumb. I mean, just complete, like it was the 80s, and you could cover it up with a press release and say, "Oh, sorry, there's just no space," and then it wouldn't come back to bite you. Just dumb. Chris says Dawn Staley is using her voice, and that's what a coach should do for her players. I mean, this goes right back to Mark Kingston and Will Sanders mentioning it in his post-game comments last night. This guy's hilarious, by the way. If you haven't seen or heard any post-game comments from Will Sanders, the new freshman pitcher for the Gamecocks, who had a career-high 10 strikeouts against the Citadel last night in 5 innings, gave up just 1 hit. I encourage you to go check this out because he'll sneak things in there, and he's just having fun. And he's a heck of a pitcher to boot, but he was talking about when Mark Kingston let a little word slip and got kicked out against Vanderbilt and said that they've been rolling kind of ever since, or that lit a spark. That's what coaches are supposed to do. He was sticking up for his team at that time and looking for any kind of advantage that he could get, and so they took it, and clearly his team responded. This is a larger issue, but we've seen time and time again, no matter the case, that Dawn Staley is not going to bite her tongue. And she even put something out. I think it was a Players Tribune article recently. Maybe it was actually an article, I'm trying to say, from Josh Kendall in The Athletic, now that I'm thinking about it, talking about how she kind of wishes she could bite her tongue sometimes, or it has come back to bite her. There was an instance at a convenience store here locally where she was buying a lottery ticket, and somebody kind of jumped her in line, I think was the deal. And she got into it with the clerk, or I think the clerk was like looking at someone behind her in line, and she didn't take kindly to that. And later on, she kind of regretted, like, I should have probably handled that a little differently. But this goes into that kind of competitive edge that we talk about with tremendous competitors, and certainly Dawn Staley is one of those. But this goes to the next level, Patrick, where you do handle very serious issues in the right way, because the wrong way to handle this would be to then go into the locker room and start preaching to your team about it just because you're mad, right? Yeah. And Dawn Staley, let's hear what she had to say about it. And I thought this was really interesting, Jen, about how that's exactly the opposite of what she's doing. She's not even talking to her team about it these days.
We play sports. We are the best at compartmentalizing our lockers. Now, I don't talk to our players about what my fight is for them, because I need them focused on them. We don't have discussions about it. Maybe they see it on social media, maybe they see it in other places, but we're not having discussions about it. I have to take that part off of their plate. What they need to do is, what they've been doing is concentrating and focusing on the task at hand, and that's competing for a national championship.
Yeah, Dawn Staley, after a 17-point win, 7th straight Sweet 16 appearance now for the USC women, over Oregon State last night, now moving on to take on Georgia Tech. I wanted to move on to another portion of the program and another aspect of what's going on today with Gamecock Football Pro Day. A lot of guys out there, as always. J.C. Horn, the headliner, going to be the first-round pick for the Gamecocks. Is Cedarius Hutcherson the most interesting prospect? To me, he is in a lot of ways. Maybe you throw Mukwamu in there just because he's a 6'4" guy who's trying to play corner. You don't see that very often. But Cedarius Hutcherson's story is fascinating. Basically gaining 100 pounds after he came to Carolina, came in recruited as a guy that maybe was even considered to be a defensive end prospect, and ended up being Carolina's most consistent, most athletic offensive lineman. Said he was ticked off when he didn't get any postseason accolades after having the season he had. But I wanted to let you hear about his experience through this pro day, or this NFL draft process, and some of the questions thrown his way, and his reaction is a classic one. Here's Cedarius Hutcherson yesterday talking about Gamecock Football Pro Day coming up and this whole NFL draft process.
I mean, it's been some crazy questions. That's where I see, how I see. I don't. It's just, I've been like, okay, I just answer the question. I just let it go. No, I'm fighting. Keep the question going because they may ask me something else where it gets you back, and so I just let it go. So.
Just his reaction there. I think he made headlines the most from our perspective, Patrick, towards the end of last season, talking about why he didn't opt out and showing or verbalizing, I think, a lot of what Gamecock football fans wanted to hear from their players at that point, having seen other guys in J.C. Horn and Israel Mukwamu, R.J. Roderick, most notably opt out after Will Muschamp was let go, and those guys having to answer those questions yesterday. But Cedarius Hutcherson, where do you see him now as an NFL prospect, and what needs to happen for him today from a numbers and workout perspective for him to improve his stuff?
Well, I think the 225 is my least favorite. The bench press for the Pro Days and Combine is one of my least favorite workouts, just because I think it's kind of unfair and it's really not a test of your strength. It's kind of a combination of your strength and stamina. So like Sedaris Hutcherson would probably look a lot better if the test was like how much can you bench, because I'm pretty sure he could throw up a ridiculous number. But the offensive and defensive linemen that are the strongest guys don't necessarily put up always the hugest numbers on the 225 because they don't necessarily have the stamina. Like a lot of times it's linebackers that have kind of the combination of size and strength and stamina that do a better job, but I'm sure it'll be really good.
Do you know the record? Because he's projecting 30 plus.
Yeah, I think it's Stephen Paya, and I think he got like 48 or something like that. I think he was pushing 50. I think 49 might be the record. I don't know if it got broken recently.
I'm looking it up right now.
High 40s. I don't think anybody's ever broken 50.
One guy has done it more than 50 times, allegedly. In 1999 Combine in Eastern Kentucky, defensive tackle Justin Ernest.
Wow.
Is what I'm reading right now. That's amazing.
Yikes.
But I guess that was unofficial, so that was reported. But the official Combine record is who you were talking about there, Justin Paya out of Oregon State.
Right. So for Hutcherson, yeah, he's very strong and very powerful. I think every team's going to realize that. It definitely benefits him that he's played on, I think, every spot on the line throughout his career at some point. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of positional versatility there. He's going to be just kind of a rotational offensive lineman. He's going to have a chance to probably get a lot of playing time inside. I don't see him being a tackle at the next level. He'll probably play guard. But he's going to just be a day three draft pick. I think he'll definitely get drafted because also a big part of these pro days and everything is just talking to the teams. And from everything we've heard from Sedaris Hutcherson, I think he's going to crush the interviews. There's not going to be any questions about his character, his love of football, or anything like that. He's a class act all the way through and has played a lot of snaps and hasn't gotten beat much. He's just very solid. So I think he's just a solidly day three guy, whether that's round 5, whether it's even later. I think he should probably hear his name called early on day 3 though.
803-404-6100 is the number into the program. You can call or text @_Patrick Perrette is where you can find Patrick on Twitter. I'm @TimHill1075. Jen is @Jen Jensen Morse, holding things down from the Herndon Chevrolet Studios in downtown Columbia. We see young Bill Gunter rejoining the program. We'll have his triumphant return when we come back. It's the early game on 107.5.
107.5 The Game. The game is on everywhere, on the air, online.
Hey, needed to tell you guys, it was a big day in the family yesterday. The 6 and 8-year-old first coach pitch game. It was successful, big success around the house. The near 1-year-old was able to get out, and he only ate a little bit of dirt after baseball. So that's a big success for us. We'll take that at my family these days because around our house it happens all the time. This guy is just a magnet, man. He goes straight to the table, straight under it. My sister has a dog who does that. He was always cleaning up under the table. We have the 1-year-old right now. So we're extra concerned about our floors and the condition they're in and keeping everything nice and clean around the house. Fortunately, we've had some professional help with Zero Res, carpet and air duct cleaning, coming out to our house a couple of times. They've done a great job cleaning our carpets. They've cleaned an area rug in my house and the tiles in both the kitchen and bathroom, and really impressed with how Zero Res has done it. They do it with a patented powered water cleaning system. No soap involved, so there's no soapy residue left over. That's why my carpets have stayed cleaner longer. Yours can as well, whether it's at your house or a business. They have a commercial cleaning division working day and night, following all the CDC guidelines, making sure everything is clean and sanitized. But no harsh chemicals also involved in the process. That's especially important to my household these days with that little guy. Man, he's wearing us out. Different story altogether. I will not bore you with that, but I will tell you that Zero Res has a great deal for you right now. 3 rooms of carpet clean for only $119, plus a free hallway when you mention me Tim Hill. Give him a shout at 803-262-4020. Book that appointment today at ZeroResColumbia.com. It's Zero Res. Spell it backwards or forwards. It's the right way to clean. It's a weird look, Patrick. A weird look you're giving the video stream right now.
I do not like
What's that?
That's wrong. The more you can win, the more you can win at 225. It's just not true.
What was it, sorry?
The guy Richard just with horrible takes all the time.
And it's just like unapologetic horrible takes. That's the thing, right?
Just simply a wrong take. Just because you can lift 225 25 times doesn't mean you can lift 700 pounds. And just because you can lift 700 pounds doesn't mean you have the stamina to rep it out 30 times. It's not the same thing at all.
All right, we're just going to take this until the next segment will take us to the end hour.
What you're saying, Jen, is we're actually on time.
Wait,
No.
do we have one more break after this?
Way late, so I'm just combining the breaks. And then
Oh, my bad. We're actually not on time.
Yeah.
That's right. You're on time now that I've adjusted things. How's that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bill, everything go all right?
There was a line this morning. I don't know what was going on. It's a crazy morning.
Austin had, I'll tell you what, these two trying to get them out the door some mornings. Austin had one long sock and one short sock and eating powdered donuts and covered in powder, and then getting to the school. It was I don't know what was going on there. We all arrived at the same time. It was actually you actually had to sit in line to drop them off. I've never had to do that. Quite the Wednesday. First actual true full week back for them. They were supposed to go last week. They had a teacher and service day on Monday, and then of course they canceled school on Thursday. So maybe that's what it is. Everybody's just confused on Wednesday. First full week back. So do we know what other inadequacies the women are dealing with besides the weight room, or?
Well, food has been an issue, I think, for a lot.
I think food was an issue in Indianapolis also.
Yep. Bo, I'm a little confused. What do you mean any coverage of it? Media not allowed in at all?
Well, Alabama was on the SEC network yesterday.
Oh, gotcha.
The SEC network is going out of their way to cover Alabama because that's just, like Alabama's spring game is on ESPN, but everybody else's is on SEC Network Plus.
Well,
it's almost like are better than everybody.
Yeah. It's almost like they win the national championship every other year, and they're going to have 6 first-round draft picks, so their pro day is kind of a big story.
It's no longer the SEC network. It's the Crimson Tide network. They have their own Longhorn network.
Bill's going to take up the equal time SEC, calling for Vanderbilt to get equal time to the Alabama Pro Day.
Should get their spring. That's the SEC network, not the Crimson Tide network.
Unbelievable.
They also have a member of the Sweet 16, number 2 seed.
Right.
Best team in football and basketball.
Let me ask, what else
Hey,
is on,
they
what is
focus
on
on
the
Kentucky
SEC
basketball.
today at 1 o'clock?
Sunny. Yeah, we'll definitely try to get that going for you there in the spring game. We should be broadcasting it, so we should be able to do a live stream as well. I know Heath done that before. I believe the last spring game was on Twitch. You could probably find somewhere. But Bo, No, not, as far as I know, no SEC Network. I know USC will be putting out videos and stuff, so there'll be a bit of a recap, but nothing live that I know of.
Yeah, honestly, the NFL Network might have live drop-ins. They've done that.
Was that our internet telling you your takes stunk, Bill, and dumping you?
No, that was me hitting the wrong button and cutting out about 12 of the tabs I have at the top. Just started to eliminate. I was trying to look to see what was on the SEC Network today. I'm sure there's something phenomenal on today.
If South Carolina had a quarterback that was going to be drafted this year, I bet it would be on the SEC Network or the NFL Network. They've been playing those, but that's really all people care about, quarterbacks.
Nobody wants to see Colin Hill?
No. Will he be there?
Nah. Not to my knowledge. I could be wrong. I don't think he's on the list, though.
Who's going to be throwing shy? Terry Orth? Could ask him.
Good question. Is Perry Orr?
Didn't he do that last year or 2 years ago?
2 years ago. I'm guessing he might be. He's staying in shape, I'm sure, with the old camps. I'm sure he's got the arm ready to roll.
Stretch it out a little bit. A couple arm circles, you're good.
Talked with Jay Urich the other day. He's going to pop on, and he's got some camps coming up for his nonprofit. And he's another name that popped up as a guy who could do it, I guess.
Yeah. Although he had shoulder injuries, you think?
Thought so.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Danielle?
If I'm a wide receiver trying to make it, I don't know if I want my quarterback with shoulder injuries throwing the ball to me.
Well, do you kind of want that as well? Like, hey, man, throw a couple where I can really make a one-handed grab. Throw a couple behind me. Or
yeah, I guess maybe. Good question. What would you rather have?
Honestly, though, Shy could probably just hit the jugs machine and catch a couple punts and be fine.
And just flip on the tape, right?
Yeah, do his athletic testing.
Yeah, that bugs me to no end, man. If there are NFL scouts drafting Shi Smith based on how he caught passes in pro day, what are you doing?
Well, didn't they draft Troy Williamson based on how he ran on pro day?
Made him a lot of money. What, 7th overall?
Yeah. Vikings.
Yeah, where you got him? Sonny's asking about Shi Smith. Patrick, where you got him?
Much later than that. He's
1 minute.
a 3 guy.
Well, yeah, there's some Tavian Robinson. Tavian Beaster, I think, is working out.
Yep, saw that.
I would think Shy would be happy if he was taken in the 5th. There's just a lot of receivers.
In the 5th? Oh, Patrick.
There's just a lot of receivers that have similar skill sets and more size. People will be worried about his size. He's got some drops, too.
About 30 seconds.
I think it'd be sweet if the 49ers took him now.
Might have to eat a chocolate donut after this. I think I'm out of bananas.
Jen, let's go with number 7, please.
Okay. Straight in?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Start with Ernest Jones here. Little pro day stuff.
Five up.
Gamecock linebacker Ernest Jones, you could see it on the podium when he was asked about what he's anticipating he will do today. Gamecock Football Pro Day couldn't help but smile and has been working out as all these guys have at these training centers now. They got them all over the country. Just the Gamecocks that were talking yesterday, all the way from Phoenix, Dallas, and Florida, I think is where they were spread out at these facilities that agencies basically house guys and kind of prepare them for pro day. Typically it's the NFL Combine, which isn't happening today, or isn't happening this year, which makes today and a pro day that much more important for guys like Ernest Jones specifically, who aren't surefire picks at all, to be honest. And then they have the opportunity to put up some numbers and change some minds, I think, today. And Patrick, you said especially for a guy like Ernest Jones, a guy who could maybe turn some heads with a good time today in the 40-yard dash.
Yeah, I think most people know. I think most teams aren't coming here for a ton of information. I think they want to talk to the guys, and Ernest Jones has all of what you need to see on tape. I mean, he's clearly instinctive. He was the leader on the defense, made a bunch of tackles. The stats will be there. I think if they can, he's the one person who can really change people's minds a little bit if he looks really fluid and fast out there today. Even if it's not just the 40, if it's on field drills and he looks really good and smooth, more so than they might have seen on tape, that could bode very well for him.
Bill, are you with Sonny here, who hits us up and says Shi Smith he thinks is very underrated? You can't go by his body of work at South Carolina. Look at what he had to play with, Sonny says. Patrick mentioned in the live video stream 5th round or so, and you reacted to that. It sounded like you thought he might go a little earlier.
Well, yeah, but then again, that's a whole breakdown, and thank goodness we have hour 3 to go through Patrick's entire wide receiver board.
We can do that over the end hour break. I actually have it.
Yeah, I think that he's got it ready to go. And he might be right. But the point being is there's a lot of good wide receivers. I think Patrick's talked about that.
15.
I think what needs to happen is on that bare wall behind you, Patrick. Since your Williams-Brice Stadium print isn't going to work because it's warped, you got to get up your big board, man. Just throw it on the wall.
Buy me an easel. Buy me an easel, guys.
You're a bachelor. Let me buy you an easel. How much could that possibly be? Go online right now.
I want a big one.
Get rid of freejunk.com, Columbia.
You don't really need an easel. You need to just go to where and buy a big cork board, because you're always doing it on paper anyway. That way you can just take off your paper. You just buy some tacks, just take it off, be able to put up your new piece of paper each day.
There's also the big boards, the big white sheets, like you put
Yeah.
in an easel, and they have the ones that have the sticky notes. It actually.
I agree. That's a good point too. You can just the big pieces of paper that you just fold over. I agree, Ken.
This is what I want.
He's already got it set.
And if you use an easel, then that's going to stick out. The feet of that is going to stick out.
Yeah, can't see.
I needed to just load.
Just send me. Oh, I see. That's old school. It looks like the old school chalkboard to me.
Yeah, like at a classroom. That's what we need.
Nice. You and Coach Klein drawing up plays there in Waterboy?
Where's my backpack?
That'd be hilarious if Patrick came back on Bill's backdrop and Bill came back on Patrick. So you guys should pull that on one day. You guys both went off screen at the same time.
All right.
I'm pretty sure we could probably green screen that, right? Superimpose it, make it happen. Just blow my mind and not say anything about it.
Have them dance in.
Go on about your business. What do you got there? Your notebook?
Yeah.
One banana left.
That's what happens when you don't buy the whole bunch, man.
Yep.
All right.
Grocery store.
All of the. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of receivers that I have ahead of Shy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14.
15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20.
He's probably around 21. Who is the wide receiver steal of the draft? Give me somebody between like 12 and 18 that outperformed.
Well, Devontae Smith, right?
Like in the middle of the round.
So his 15th ranked receiver.
Yeah. Who's the guy who outperforms?
The two that I like the most are Jalen Darden from North Texas. Just super bouncy, ridiculous, like really, really, really fun to watch. And I also like Cade Johnson from South Dakota State, who was like insanely productive his entire career and dominated the Senior Bowl. Like the one time he had to do one-on-ones against Power 5 guys, he dominated every single one of them.
That's wildly fascinating that a guy from South Dakota State will get drafted ahead of a receiver at South Carolina.
Yeah, he definitely will.
How does that happen?
I also really like Amari Rodgers, and he's kind of not being talked about very much, but I think he's awesome. He's very smart, willing to play running back, clearly, because he did it at his pro day. Coach's son. Do you guys know who Amari Rodgers that is?
T. Rogers?
Got nothing.
T. Martin.
T. Martin. I'm sorry. Why did I say T. Rogers? Yeah.
Right. I do remember seeing that now.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, because they were all upset with T. Martin when he didn't land his son.
Yeah. The other thing about Shy that's going to potentially hurt him and get guys, he might be a little bit more talented than guys that get drafted ahead of him. Like Cornell Powell from Clemson is going to be a very productive special teams player. And later in the draft, teams prioritize guys that if they're not sure they can fit on the field right away, they're going to be good special teamers. And Shy will not be a special teams contributor. He can return maybe, but he's not going to be a gunner. He's too small for that and not physical enough.
Bill's asking first defensive end or defensive tackle drafted. Who you got?
Christian Barmore from Alabama. It's a really bad defensive tackle class, but Christian Barmore from Alabama is a stud. He is the one that would be a first-round pick any year.
Is he a top 10 guy?
They probably won't, unless Dallas takes him. I don't think he'll be top 10, but he'll be a first-rounder. It's a weird edge rusher class. Like people seem to be very split between like Kwity Paye from Michigan is a freak athlete, Jason Oweh from Penn State, freak athlete, Azeez Ojulari from Georgia is up there, but people are kind of concerned about his strength, but he's just so fast off the edge. And then Gregory Rousseau from Miami didn't play last year, and Jalen Phillips from Miami has already retired because of concussions. So I don't know if people are going to be really excited to draft him in the first round, given that he's already unretired from the sport.
Chris, good luck at work, sir. Trying to think about where we want to start here in hour number 3. Let's do, Jen, can we start with Mark Kingston there, his first one? So that's number 12.
No.
Thank you. And absolutely no chance to Travis's question, right?
No world in which Trevor Lawrence is not taking number 1. I was thinking how many teams, if they had the number 1 pick, wouldn't take Trevor Lawrence. And I think there's only like 6 or 7 teams, probably.
And I think those might make other adjustments, right?
Yeah.
What about what Kevin's saying here about guys being able to pop back in, like the Major League Baseball draft? He's talking about basically turn it down out of high school or turn it down out of JUCO.
Well, I
wouldn't be surprised if that's on the way. The NBA is adopting it.
Well, the one thing you definitely have to do is you'd have to move the draft up. You'd have to put the draft just for recruiting's sake, because baseball you can kind of the numbers and the way you play with the numbers can be adjusted.
Well, and also it'd have to be undrafted guys. Like then you're punishing the NFL. Well, then you're punishing the NFL team who's using potentially a valuable pick. Like if you wanted to be a first rounder, but you were taken in the third round, and you say no, I'm coming back to school, that's not going to be okay because a third rounder is an extremely valuable pick for an NFL team.
Very true.
I'll play Kingston.
Thank you.
But undrafted guys, I think, should be able to come back. That seems to make sense.
Five.
That's Carolina baseball coach Mark Kingston talking about second straight win now for Carolina. 8-3 last night over the Citadel at Founders Park in a relatively comfortable 8-3 win, getting all those runs early on, and Will Sanders being dominant on the mound with that career-high 10 strikeouts, and Sanders after the game saying that they're just keeping it going after the momentum that Kingston gave his team when he let a word slip in the Vanderbilt dugout, or the dugout against Vanderbilt on Sunday. And Bill, why is that making your head explode over there?
Didn't he get ejected in the 7th inning?
Uh-huh.
Like when we say that the momentum, it's 10 innings. I'm going to need more than 10 innings of momentum, especially when you play the Citadel, which it's like let's see if the momentum carries through, say, Saturday. Like if you win Friday and you win Saturday, because what's the reasoning if they lose on Friday? Well, the momentum just stopped. Do we need Mark Kingston to turn into Joe Pesci in the dugout every once in a while? Let's see if the momentum from Mark Kingston continues through. This is not a bad baseball team. They played some really good teams, and you got swept by Texas. You bounced back. They were there. You guys talked about it. Kumar Rocker on Friday night. South Florida's there. They're playing a very good team. They're playing the best pitcher, the second best pitcher in baseball. But let's not over exaggerate one really bad loss last week to Davidson. That maybe we could just blame on Tim Hill for being on the call. Maybe that was the reason. Maybe it has nothing to do with the baseball team. Like this team's not playing bad baseball, and they rolled last night. I think it is going to be a very competitive series this weekend if they get it in. You guys see the weather report for this weekend? It's like all rain. It's not. Hopefully, it changes here as we sit here. But as we sit here today, it's 40%. It is supposed to be warm, 81, 79, and 75. But 40%, 40%, and 50%. So you may have some games that are, a little discombobulated just because of starts and stops with rain. But you guys got to admit, like this baseball team, it's not like they're getting run out of the park by these teams. I know. Again, people are gonna complain about getting no hit on Saturday by Jack Leiter, but again, Jack Leiter's gonna be a top 5 pick.
Yeah, he's tremendous, but I thought you're gonna leave out 36 batters in a row getting out.
Kumar Rocker and Jack Leiter, I
number.
get it, that's not good, but it's not like they were playing a couple bums up. It wasn't the 4 of us out there combining to shut down 36 straight batters. Let's give a little bit of credit to Rocker and Leiter. And realize that they're probably going to be pretty good. I'm with you. That's not a good statistic, but I'm also not going to hammer this baseball team right now when who was it? Who's this? Trey says, the Jack Leiter had a top 5 game for his career. Probably so. He probably had the best game he'll ever have.
He's only thrown 8. That's it. That's his college career. 8 games. Yeah, it's a top 5 game. When you have a no-hitter, you've only thrown 8. Good call, Trey. No kidding. He got 27 guys out in a row. No one's. Well, I guess only the most extreme, and you need to ignore those on social media, Bill. You're kind of preaching to the choir here. No one's ripping Gamecock baseball and telling you they're not a good team, but they didn't play good baseball for a stretch there. They lost 6 games in a row, and you lose to a Davidson team in 2021 at home 9-4, coming off a weekend sweep, and then ahead of going to Vanderbilt. It's unacceptable for Gamecock baseball.
Again, I'm blaming you.
And they made the adjustment. It was interesting to hear Mark Kingston hearing him talk about it last night. Why don't we hear that part of his post-game press conference as well right now, Jen, if you don't mind. The change in philosophy, allowing Will Sanders, instead of like he did last week against Davidson, yanking him after an inning, to go an extended period last night. Five innings, just one hit was a solo home run, 10 strikeouts, a career high for Will Sanders. And Kingston mentioning maybe he took a little something from that Vandy series and other guys like Rocker and Leiter and was inspired by that. Maybe it was that. Maybe it was just the idea. And Sanders said he wasn't told before the game necessarily that he's going to be given more innings. He just was going out there and doing what he needed to do and trying to focus on getting the next guy out. But 67 pitches was the total last night, going to be available on Sunday, according to Mark Kingston and hearing Sanders talk about it himself, bouncing back and be available in the Florida series. But it's what you got to do. You got to win games. And you can do it anyway, but you got to win games, especially when you're a midweek host against a smaller school in your Gamecock baseball. And last night is what Carolina baseball needs to do. 8-3, the final score over a Citadel team that had just absolutely dominated that Davidson team that we saw this time last week. So feeling better about themselves. And I think all Sanders was talking about building on the momentum that was given from Mark Kingston is that they were down a run when Kingston gets ejected at Vandy. Is now the number one team in the country. And they came back and found a way to win that game. And then they kept it going with 8 early runs last night and some solid pitching, just keeping it rolling is all. And this team has been on the polar extremes, right? 11 straight wins, 6 straight losses, and now back-to-back wins ahead of Florida this weekend. I'm with you, Bill. What happens in this series will go a long way in determining how Gamecock baseball is seen, I think, nationally. They dropped 9 spots in that D1 baseball poll from 16 to 25, but you bounce back and you win a series against Florida. I think maybe an overly sensitive fan base right now will earn a little bit or gain a little bit more trust or confidence in this team, that it's not the team that we saw a couple of seasons ago that started well and then just struggled to a 28-28 record. It'd be much more like the first season that Mark Kingston had, ended up at 1 game away from the College World Series. What are you guys looking at that you're giving some weird looks to? We got live chat stuff. You got text stuff. What's going on?
Text stuff.
Not to be mentioned.
I mean, it can be mentioned, but we do notice that you copy and pasted the same message from a week ago. So.
Who are you talking to specifically?
I don't know. They don't have a name.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
We need to be more knowledgeable, though.
Oh, any particular reason?
Saying that South Carolina should have beaten Davidson. You clearly don't understand baseball.
It actually is the exact same text message sent to the afternoon crew, sent to us. They had to literally copy and paste it.
Yeah.
Wait, I need to get into this. Okay, here we go. You guys saying it's a team you should have beaten in regards to Davidson has zero clue about baseball. If they play a series or multiple series, yes, the team with better talent will win more than they lose. Look at it this way. If they played 100 times, should Carolina win every game? This happens to be one of the times Davidson wins. Please be more knowledgeable.
No, I refuse to be more knowledgeable. That is a motto of my life that I have just decided. I'm 38. I'll be 39 in 40 days or somewhere that I am done being more knowledgeable. You're stuck with me, buddy. You're stuck with me. Hey, buddy, you're stuck with my knowledge. What you get is what you get. Take that.
Needs to be a new T-shirt. I'm trying to say. I'm laughing in my head so much I can't get it out. 107.5 The Game on the front. Please be more knowledgeable on the back.
I'm giving up on the knowledge thing. This is what I'm at 38. This is what I'll be at 39 and 40. You get what you get. Bananas, donuts. That's what all I got.
I do wonder how Jay took that one. The exact same text, word for word, copied and pasted from a text of Jay Phillips.
I'm guessing then he probably ignored it, rightfully so, as opposed to you guys taking it personally.
I wasn't gonna say it, but you noticed the look on the live stream. This is the problem with the live stream.
Hey, when a text elicits the visceral reaction, you got to put it out there sometimes. You got to put it out there. Yeah, we're not overemphasizing midweek games. I think that's the point, right? One loss in the midweek isn't going to change anything, but when it's in the middle of a 6-game losing streak, it's a problem. And one win, like last night over the Citadel, not going to get the Gamecocks right back in the national power picture, but it's headed in the right direction. I think that's all we're trying to say. We will try to be more knowledgeable as we roll on here. USC women's basketball, 7 straight Sweet 16s now after a 17-point win against Oregon State. To me, the most impressive part of last night's performance was that Dawn Staley and company knew that Oregon State made its money at the 3-point line, leading the country 41%, and it shut it down. It's just that simple. This is what good teams do, right? Bad teams say, well, that team was they just beat us, or they're really good at this, and we just kind of had to let it happen, or had to accept that. Good teams say, all right, we know this is what you do, and we're not going to let you do it. And 3-point shooting is kind of weird. I think it can be over-exaggerated a little bit. Alabama on the men's side of things is probably the best example of that. If Alabama's going to hit threes, sometimes as a defense, there isn't much you can do about it. If you contest those threes, and I feel like I've seen this specific Alabama team, some nights they're just going to hit threes, and that's who they are. And there's not a lot from a defensive perspective you can do. But that Final Four team, Bill, that Frank Martin and company had, I feel like they were a team that consistently held opposing teams under their season average for 3-point shooting because they were just such a good defensive team. Dawn Staley has her program at a level defensively, especially, that's just not many teams in women's basketball can compete. And Oregon State clearly hadn't seen a team do what her team did to them last night.
Yeah, South Carolina is better than Oregon State. We know that. The flaw for South Carolina women's basketball is still there. You're not going to win many games when you shoot 1 of 15. You can do it when you're much, much better than Oregon State. That's what South Carolina was. There was a good article prior to the women's tournament about best case, worst case scenario for the elite teams in the tournament. And South Carolina's, I think it was Charlie Cream who was the one who wrote it, and it hit the nail on the head. And it said that South Carolina gets into the Sweet 16 or the Elite 8 and can't shoot the ball from the perimeter and loses and doesn't get to the Final Four, and it's an extremely disappointing season in Columbia and a long off season. And that's very true. If they don't get to the Final Four, it's a disappointing season. Good and bad, that's where Dawn Staley's put the program. You mentioned it, 7 straight Sweet 16s. Dawn Staley's built such a mammoth program that it's crazy to say, but not getting to the Final Four is an extreme disappointment, and that's what it would be. Look, good win last night. You get to where you're going, and you're right, good defensive performance. But South Carolina's better than Oregon State. But you can't have another 1 for 15 shooting night from 3-point range. They're going to have to shoot the ball better if they're going to get to the Final Four, and that's the goal of this basketball team.
You think it was the sight lines? I've heard that about big stadiums, big arenas. This happens in because they're playing the Alamo Dome, right? It's huge.
But they played. I'm not going to sit here again. It's been 2 years since we've had. Where did they win the national championship at a few years ago? Like, did they play in the big?
It was in Dallas.
Did they play in the big? They play in arenas though, right? The women play, they play in arenas. They don't play in the. I mean, maybe that's a good point, Patrick. In regards to that,
it's a 64,000 seat dome. Big stadium they're playing in yesterday.
Aren't you going to continue to play games in that? Or are they bouncing them around to all different venues? I don't know enough about how they're doing the facilities and how you play in each one, or if it'll be a different facility for the next round of games next week or this coming weekend. But
I'm going to actually tell you that.
While Patrick looks up information, let's get out to the Love Chevy phone lines. Kelvin would like to weigh in on Gamecock women's basketball, 7 straight Sweet 16s. What do you think, Kelvin? Good question.
Well,
Thanks
I think it's this.
for the call, Calvin.
I think it's the same as the men's. There's a cap on it. They're not going to allow more, but it's kind of like at the Alamo Dome and kind of like at Lucas Oil Stadium for the men's, where bigger facilities are allowed to have more people. So, like Patrick, I know like at Lucas Oil Stadium, when they were talking about it this past weekend, Lucas Oil Stadium, whatever the percentage was, it worked out to roughly 17,000 fans, whereas I want to say it was like Mackey Arena for Purdue, they were only able to have like 700 fans, again, because of percentages. So I'm assuming that's why I was kind of bringing that up about, are more games going to be just played at the Alamo Dome as you narrow this down, or is it still different facilities? Because, I would assume that the championship, everything's going to be, I would assume the Final Four is going to be in the Alamo Dome. I would assume that they'll do it there, but I could be wrong.
I think that is correct. The press release or whatever they put out said it was going to be like 12,000.
Well, but to Kelvin's point, in the first and second round, they haven't been allowing fans in there, limited to just team players and guests. And now, when it hits Sweet 16 here, they will be opening it up 17% of capacity. The specific numbers I'm reading here from the NCAA website. And just trying to be more. I'm trying to be more knowledgeable. That's all I'm trying to do here.
And I'm going to do something I said that I was. I've gained knowledge. If you're wondering, the other four teams that can make out the remainder of South Carolina's bracket, you got South Carolina, Georgia Tech, Texas, and UCLA will play tonight at 9:00. Texas is the 6th seed, UCLA is the 3 seed, and Maryland and Alabama. Maryland the 2 seed. And Alabama, the 7th seed, they'll play at 1:00 today. The winner of those two will meet in the Sweet 16. Hopefully, the winner of that will be playing South Carolina in the Elite 8. If you're just kind of curious as to who the other two teams that you would be tracking opposite South Carolina and Georgia Tech are. So look at me, look at me already just breaking rules that I set forth about being knowledgeable.
Sounds about right. 803-404-6100 if you would like to drop some knowledge on the program. Love Chevy phone lines or Cool Care Heating and Air text line. Also up and rolling on the live video stream. Just got hit up on Twitter. Anthony, great news. Going to get Patrick a magnetic dry erase board. Or says he's at least willing to donate. Will that work for you, Patrick, or you're not down with it?
No, that's perfect. That's exactly what I need.
We're hooking Patrick up this morning in his pre-draft preparation, talking some Gamecock football on Pro Day today. Carolina baseball and USC women's basketball winners last night. Oh, everyone's just in a cheery mood. It's the early game. That's 107.5 the game. Hey, are you in the market right now for a mortgage? Are you shopping your current mortgage around? Are you thinking about, you kind of like my house right now, busting at the seams a little bit, looking to expand, maybe look into the new housing market? Great time, obviously, to refinance or to get a new mortgage. And Buford Lending wants to be your mortgage broker. And a mortgage broker is different. Benji Getzi at Buford Lending wants to let you know that a mortgage broker is a little bit different than just someone who does mortgages. Maybe they're attached to a bank specifically. They have other limitations. At Buford Lending, Benji Getzi been doing it for 25 years there and his team. They know that they can get you the best deal. They know that you're smart about getting the best deal as well. And all Benji asks is that you just give him a call. Put him on your list. Let him have a chance to show you that he can get you the best deal. 843-524-2404 is the number to put on your list of people to contact. Go ahead and contact who you've worked with before and just throw Benji a call out there as well. Put him in the mix, and he knows that he and his team will be able to get you the best deal out there. And if not, he wants to know who did, and he'll say good luck and welcome that you got the best deal, and he and his team will try to figure out exactly how to get the best deals moving forward for you. That's what Buford Lending does. It's Benji Getzy again with Buford Lending, 843-524-2404. Buford Lending, my broker, your broker in South Carolina's mortgage broker. Let's take this off of there. There we go. Get my big face off of there. Shameless, Patrick. Shameless.
Awesome. Well, okay,
Love it. I wish you could just have a graphic of your hand out. Little hot take for money.
You see, the guy responded back.
I saw that. With what I would expect. People hear what they want to hear.
I don't remember us saying it's unacceptable.
What do I got going in the background here? Sorry about that.
Is that you? Yeah, I had a.
That was when I looked up the NCAA stuff for the women.
Autoplay videos.
Yeah.
Just the worst.
There was nothing important. He just told us he copied and pasted because we sounded like the afternoon guys. Well, sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. I forget sometimes we're doing a live stream and that the old conversations we have don't translate well to.
I copied and pasted because you guys are saying the same thing as the afternoon guys. Saying it's unacceptable to lose a baseball game is ridiculous. Right, because I'm sure Mark Kingston after the game gathered everyone around and said, hey guys, acceptable. 9-4 loss to Davidson.
The question is, which parent do you think sent that?
I think parents understand. I think that's just a dumb baseball fan.
Hey, by the way, Patrick, did you see Jack Eastby had another tweet yesterday? Man, his tweets do not go well in Houston. He does not know who he is.
It's very shit.
Dude, if you want like 5 minutes of just laughter, look at a Jack Easterby tweet and then look at the Texans' response. Like, because they're all the Texans fans. And there ain't a single one of them that's like, thank you for the motivational tweet today. I feel better about myself.
I see Schmeagol from Lord of the Rings leave now and never come back.
Yeah. I don't know why it popped up, but I saw it and I was like, well, let me see what today's like responses are. Man, they do not like that guy.
Yeah, to bring it full circle, I think Dawn Staley credited him with like the devotional that she popped up on Twitter the other day.
Yeah.
What a small world.
Wow. He is something. I don't know what Joe just sent me. Joe just sent me some kind of statistic where South Carolina's number one. Oh, South Carolina's number one in strikeouts per 9 innings.
You mean offensively in a bad way? Or
I don't know. My buddy Joe, he just sent me and Andy in the group text. Just says strikeouts per 9 innings. I don't know if that's. He just sent a screenshot. Really, there's no context behind it. That's what he does. It's 8:28 in the morning. His last 6 text messages were very political, and then he sends a baseball text. And that's the guy that I'm going to play like Top Golf with.
So let me look it up and do your work for you.
Did you guys see the cargo ship that just got stuck sideways and blocked the Suez Canal for the whole day yesterday?
What?
There's a cargo ship. It's like every time I click on my Twitter Explorer, I see this picture. This giant cargo ship like got stuck sideways and just blocked the Suez Canal, which is like one of the largest shipping routes in the world.
That's crazy. We're headed back in.
Pretty weird, wild picture. I don't know how they got turned like that.
Not a good captain. Needed Tom
Really
Hanks.
not. No Captain Phillips?
Okay, you need a Captain Phillips out there.
So 33 is where the Gamecocks are from a good perspective from the pitching one.
Any audio you want?
Eh.
Okay, you guys are up.
Bill just talking about it on the live video stream. Going to tee it up at Williams-Brice Stadium. The Top Golf live experience going to iconic stadiums across the country. Williams-Brice will be hosting April 8th through April 11th. We got a chance for you to win tickets, a free pair of tickets up for grabs, 1075thegame.com. Register now on the website, 6 p.m. April 10th on Saturday when you can go for those free tickets, or when those free tickets will be redeemable over at Williams-Brice. And again, I'm sure that's going to be a really interesting. You haven't, has that happened? Have they done that once before, Bill, or is this the first time this is happening? Do you know? As far as you know, it's the first time?
It's a Top Golf deal. It's the first time they've ever done that. Williams-Brice has never done. As far as I know, Williams-Brice has never done anything ever like that.
Maybe I'm thinking back to a Bryan Brothers video. I think they've hit a shot or two from the top of Williams-Brice down to the 50-yard line or a target or something like that. But it'll be, if you've never done the Top Golf, I certainly recommend it highly. And this one is a little bit more unique and different. Say it's just going to be a little wedge issue when you only have 120 yards of grass down there. We're not going to bring out the big stick in this one. I have no idea how they're going to do it with the nets and the targets and the whole thing, but it's not just at Williams-Brice, going all the way across the country doing this thing. So taking it on the road, I think it'll be a cool experience. To me, I should just do Top Golf moving forward instead of actual golf. First of all, it takes out that pesky exercise thing. You don't have to walk around too much. Also, you don't have to worry about your bad shots. Those just go off to the side and you say, all right, next shot. Hit another one real quick. It makes me feel better about things that I can just not worry about that one. And you get to keep scoring like a video game kind of way. It's a blast.
The sun, the walking, those are the two number one things that would have come to my mind. You can be in the shade.
Well, it is much more. Yeah, typically you have the covered kind of driving range stall. And if it's chilly, you probably have a heater in there already. And if it's raining, I think they can put covers up and the whole. Yeah, it is the best of golf for sure.
So if you go to the topgolf.com website, I typed in Top Golf Stadium Tour. It's got pictures of different venues where they've done it at. Safecoat Field, I see, is one. That I don't know what that looks like. The Eagles Stadium. There's another baseball stadium. Is that what it is? That I can't. Yeah. And then there looks like that might be the Steeler Heinz Field. There's one. But if you go to it, it kind of gives you an idea of what they've got. So it looks like, and I don't know how they'll do this, how they'll kind of do it given what Williams-Brice is like and where they'll set you up. But it looks like a lot of them, they're hitting out of the end zone. And, maybe you'll have about 100 yards, I guess, to hit. It's kind of interesting. I was just looking at some of the pictures there of how they've done it. And I wonder if you'll be hitting out of like the upper deck or.
Right. It's going to be an interesting setup for sure, and something to be part of. So, and your buddy you're going to go do this with is Joe, right?
Yeah.
And Joe sent you what stat? Was it strikeouts per 9 innings? I'm seeing right now.
He needs a life. He sent it's just a screenshot. It's just a screenshot of it just says strikeouts per 9 innings. And then South Carolina is number 1, 18 games, 159 innings, 234 strikeouts. Mississippi State's 2, Vanderbilt's 3, Ole Miss is 4, Texas A&M's 5, Indiana 6, and Virginia 7, just to give you a breakdown. But I don't know what he's trying to
to tell me, or anybody
Well,
for that matter.
This is the thing where it's a little confusing, but this is the good thing. This is not, for instance, we got a text in here making my brain hurt. The first text we got from this anonymous texter since November. Everyone needs to stop looking at the embarrassment of being no hit and focus on the Gamecock struck out 43 times over the weekend. They only played 27 innings. Not even putting the ball in play is a real problem. This is the most pessimistic text I've ever seen. Are you completely not even acknowledging that Carolina pitchers struck out 42 Vanderbilt hitters? Vanderbilt just got to number 1 in the country. Carolina hitters struck out one more time than Vandy did. And to go to that stat, that is a positive stat for Gamecock pitching, right? Out of all college teams in the country going into last night's game, because this had it through 18 games, Carolina averaging 13.2 strikeouts against the opposition per 9 innings. And Will Sanders went a career-high 10 strikeouts last night. The total I'll pull up here, but I think it was around 14 or 15. So that number not going down at all. This is what baseball has become. You got to get that into your line of thinking here. It is plus power numbers and plus strikeout numbers. I mean, the Citadel running out guys that throw 92, 93 in a midweek game against Carolina last night. This is a different game than we've seen in years past. They're just more strikeouts. And if you're going to rip Gamecock hitters for striking out, you also got to be fair and give the pitchers some credit as well for doing the striking out on the other side.
Here's the statistic, and I'm sure it's out there, and I don't know where you'd find it, but here's the statistic I'd be interested in. How many strikeouts are strikeouts swinging versus strikeouts looking? Because I do feel like this team has been more aggressive at the plate, whereas in years past, I've heard people say, "Oh, they're too passive. They're watching too many pitches, taking too many pitches." There is a difference. Tim, you played college baseball. You would agree there's a difference in going up and striking out, swinging, and being aggressive at the plate versus being passive and trying to work counts and get further into. You're making a face there. Do you not agree with that line of thinking when you've got a team who goes up and they're at least being aggressive? You're right. Strikeouts are never good. But you'd rather have a team who's being aggressive at the plate, right?
Not necessarily if you're swinging at a bunch of balls outside the zone. Then you're just what they call it controlled aggression or disciplined aggression, I believe is what Mark Kingston puts it. I'm just simply trying to say that strikeouts from an offensive perspective are a concern. But you also have to take pride in getting strikeouts on the defensive perspective. South Carolina is the best at it. Defensively, you can't just complain about it offensively and not point that out from the defensive perspective. And I agree with kind of your sentiment, I think there, Bill, that this year's team has been better at that than the team we saw a couple of years ago that ended up going 28-28. It's why we were giving them so much credit through the 11-game win streak to start the season, is that you weren't seeing massive strikeout numbers. That one Clemson game with the school record set with 21 kind of withstanding. But if you're going to be concerned about it, just, be more knowledgeable, I believe I've heard on the program. That's all. Be more knowledgeable. That the Gamecock pitching staff is really good at striking other guys out too. So that's what you're going to see with Gamecock baseball games. You're going to see the nation's leading home run guy in Wes Clark adding to his total last night with 11, and you're going to see some strikeouts. But it's those 2-strike, 2-out situations that's going to continue to come up for this Carolina team. And we're going to see whether guys are going to be able to consistently come through or consistently not come through. And I think to your point, Bill, when you don't even take the bat off your shoulder in those situations and you strike out, man, that's frustrating to watch. But I think it can be equally frustrating when you see a guy go fishing at a ball in the dirt or outside the strike zone. So it's not just a simple, you got to be more aggressive kind of approach to take. You also got to understand the competition you're playing against. Rocker and Leiter at Vandy, as good as it gets in college baseball. This weekend against Florida, one of the best staffs in college baseball. And you're going to continue to see those, and Gamecock hitters are going to have to make adjustments or come through in big moments enough to pull out some wins.
I don't know. I feel like this is a fun baseball conversation since I'm not very knowledgeable. I feel like the batter that goes up there and never takes his bat off the shoulder and takes 3 strikes and strikes out angers the coach and the fans far more than the guy that goes up there and just hacks his 3 pitches that aren't necessarily in the vicinity of the plate. What do you think would have angered? Hold on, you're the coach's pitch coach. I'm the soccer coach. You're the coach. What angers you more with the young kids if they're going up there just taking your good pitches? If you're throwing one that you know the kid should have swung at, or when you finally get one and you bounce it in the dirt and they're swinging.
So first of all, last night was my coach pitch debut. It wasn't good. There were a lot of bad pitches. I didn't hit any kids though. That was kind of the main goal. There was only one time when I told one of the kids, "Hey man, I'm not going to throw a better pitch than that. You got to swing." It did happen one time late in the game.
You never had to.
It was one of the smaller kids, so I think it particularly ticked me off that he looked at one right down the middle. Like, come on, man, you got to swing the bat. That's a completely different conversation, though, than Gamecock baseball. I think Mark probably hits it on the head, and maybe why we're not seeing as many texts as we typically do. Good day for Gamecock sports yesterday. How about that? Not much to complain about with a win with the Citadel 8-3, and then the 7th straight Sweet 16 ticket punch for Don Staley and company. Get back into our football conversation when we come back. Let you hear a little bit more from those guys who are going for Gamecock Pro Day today. You're listening to the early game here on 107.5. No 840 here, Bill? You're good?
I was all done for today. I agree, Anthony. You gotta get kid, but you play the kids that the other team becomes concerned about what can happen when their coaches.
I'll just do that. I'll put my kid up there first, and they're like, "Hey, man, here's what we're gonna do." My 8-year-old would be all for it.
Yeah, just turn, get your shoulder into it, and turn.
Yep. They'd be like, "All right, let's do it." I did have some good swing and miss stuff yesterday, Travis. No doubt about it. The swing and miss stuff was there. Missing a lot of barrels.
It does get to the point in coach's pitch where you realize you're trying to hit the bat. You're not trying to get them to get a hit. You're just trying to hit their bat.
Exactly.
When you look at it, it turns into more of a dart.
Yeah, except I wasn't happy at the little circle that was drawn that I had to stay in to throw. I was like, "Come on, we got to move this thing up, man."
Yeah.
It was way too far back.
Sir, the worst, this is the most disgusting and yet funniest story. I would get behind the plate to help the catcher and help the batter and everything. And we had a buddy of mine, Jonathan Black, who was pitching. So we have a kid come walking up to the plate and his shoe's untied. So I'm like, all right, hold on. So I go over there and I'm tying the shoe, and all of a sudden I realize, I'm like, "Hey, buddy, it hadn't rained in days. Why is your shoe all wet?" And he goes, "Well, I just went to the bathroom." And I was like, oh, that's...
Oh, nice.
That's coach's pitch at its finest.
No doubt.
That was the last time we played baseball. We went to soccer, flag football, and everything else.
Mark, good stuff. I like the actual part. I don't know if that actually helps cutting down on strikeouts. It doesn't. Probably. I hear you, Mark. Yeah, we got one kid that is legit, and I'm concerned about my just natural reaction to catch a ball if he hits it back to me. I'll be that idiot. Yeah, we got one hitter. He's a heck of a player. I'm trying to put it on the inside corner of the plate for him so he can pull it and not send one right back in my face.
Now, do everybody bats, or do y'all do 3 outs?
3 outs, man. I love our league. Three strikes, 3 outs. Sorry. Deal with it. Let's go. Move on. The only rule they have is they cap it, I think, at their 8th batter scores, then they switch it up.
Oh, so y'all, I mean, that's true. He's 8. So y'all, I mean, it's baseball. It's not everybody bats, everybody. I mean, it's outs and everything. Yeah, okay. That's good. Yeah, Austin, we did Little League. He got it's just too slow for him. I don't mind that. He might pick it back up. He wants to play flag football. That's really what he wants to get into now. And
Got to do it, man. It's a great game.
it's just he's gotten good. He's gotten really good at soccer. And I tell you, it's getting to that point. I need to look at camps. I need to talk to Bailey Harris about some basketball camps, and I need to. The concern that I got, the biggest concern that I got is not Austin. The daughter is about to do competitive cheer, and that is not cheap, and that is not. She's got tryouts in 4 weeks. So the competitive cheer has put a hold on purchasing a boat, because I feel like that will just be sitting out there rocking back and forth.
Did your sister ever do that, Patrick?
No, she never did any cheer.
My sisters did that a little bit.
She did the youth football prom thing.
Yeah, I'm hoping Ansley goes into 6th grade next year, and she can't try out for cheerleading at the school just yet. So I'm hoping this will only be 1 year of competitive cheer before she does like middle school, and we won't get out of the competitive cheer. Because what I've heard about it, competitive cheer could put a real crimp in my
bank account,
financial planning.
Mm-hmm.
It could bring a strong halt to the current lifestyle I prefer to live.
Jen, can we do 3 coming back, please?
Yeah, we still have about 2.5, 2:45.
Okay. See, why can't the cocky codger, why can't everybody text like he does? He sends some ridiculous texts in, but he also sends in the last 2. We Gamecock fans are rarely happy, Bill, with a smiley face, and I have never been accused of being knowledgeable.
Bipolar.
Truth.
Oh, it's great.
Depends on how he wakes up.
Well, at least he doesn't take himself too serious.
I agree with that. It's gonna be strange. There's not a lot of stuff on television tonight. No NCAA basketball. No Gamecock baseball.
Chicago Med. Hello.
Chicago Men. Yeah, sure, Jim. Jeez. What Netflix series are you watching?
None.
Well, we have a good night of hockey, don't we, Patrick?
No, Caps don't play.
Thank you for being a wet blanket. I think it's a triple header night. I think it will be a hockey night.
Yeah, it's not a good hockey night. It is a triple header of bad games, actually.
What do we got? We got Anaheim and Minnesota, Buffalo,
game.
Pittsburgh, and Kings, Sharks.
Buffalo, anytime they play, is not worth watching. They're so bad.
Yeah, they are bad. Well, could be an early bedtime. Wake up rested, refreshed, and ready to go tomorrow.
There you go.
Wait, the Goldbergs? Are you serious? The show?
What about it?
The grandfather passed away? He's popular.
Yeah.
Oh, George Siegel? Oh, no. Jeez, he was 87? He was a young-looking 87.
He was.
Oh. I hadn't watched the Goldbergs in forever. That was really funny.
I never got into it.
Really? The father on that, the father, it was hilarious. What was the guy, the father?
I know him from Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yeah.
I'll look it up. I'm going to be that good.
I was
The day before that was Elgin Baylor.
Yeah. Jeff Garland.
Jeff Garland, yep.
Yeah, I like Jeff Garland. The Goldbergs is a pretty good show. That was.
Oh, that's the guy. That's Jeff from Curb, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so Tim was saying.
Jen, number 3 here, please.
Daggone, the daughter is 27? Haley or Talia? I guess that show has been out for about 10 years. I guess that makes sense, actually. How long did the Goldbergs been here?
Too much, away from me, shaking. I could deal with all of that after and stuff like that. But when I opted out, it was just confidence in myself was them calling me a quitter, questioning my safety, and losing my mind at the same time. It was kind of like frustrating and having mad, and kind of like a little Twitter war or whatever. Because I was emotional just because like I felt no need to act like that person hated me. You don't know what was good. I just lost my mind. You know, talking about football. So that was kind of frustrating, but I fought through it. I'm in a better place now, and I can't wait to get back on the field.
J.C. Horn, ahead of today's Gamecock Pro Day, back in Columbia, back speaking publicly, really for the first time since opting out at the end of last season, where it was ugly in all kinds of ways. And after you hear those details, it was hard not for me to even to feel worse about the situation. Patrick, it looked like you might have been responding with a bit of skepticism there, or in a different way.
I will say one thing. He did say that he wanted to spend time with his family before training because he can't get away from training. Once you start training, you can't stop training. So in a way, he picked training for the he did pick training for the draft over finishing the season. So I mean, I don't think that's necessarily changes my opinion of anything, and I think the timing was poor. So I don't know. I don't hold anything against him. He made a decision for himself and his family, so it's fine. But I don't.
Oh, Israel Mukwamo, also speaking yesterday, also asked that question, and his response was really interesting. I thought it was basically saying that going through his injured groin, and he said he was told that he basically wasn't going to be able to play the rest of the year. So I'm wondering why is it then opting out? You know what I mean? If you can't play physically, well, why wouldn't you stick around the team and try to help in that way?
I think everyone's trying to make it look good now because
the McCormick.
Well, you have to answer the questions, right? The NFL is asking. Yeah. Right, they're asking
people like opting out.
There's two things that are very important here that did not happen. And from a Kwame standpoint, one is you had the coaching change, but no coach came to the defense of these kids. And they should have done. There should have been an explanation. And maybe J.C. Horn at that time should have gotten out in front of it and said something, and not just put out a statement. And I don't blame this on J.C. Horn. But I think it was a lack of leadership when you had the transition from Will Muschamp to Mike Bobo and Travaris Robinson, and you could have protected those kids a little bit more. And maybe we didn't need to know what was going on with J.C. Horn. But Kwamu at the time, I kind of thought he was hurt. We all thought he was hurt. I think he had just missed the game.
Missed the Auburn game. Yeah.
It came across bad. And it came across bad not necessarily just because of them, but because you also had fighting from players like Javon Kinlaw and Brian Edwards and other guys who were standing up for Will Muschamp, and it became a former players and current players versus the fan base kind of thing. But you could have had coaches or somehow a message conveyed like, hey, here's an issue with J.C. Horn, and definitely with McQuamu saying, look, the guy's out for the rest of the year, because we did give Shi Smith a ton of credit for being hurt and missing, I think, Georgia and maybe one before that, but coming back to play in a completely meaningless game against Kentucky. We gave Shi Smith a lot of credit for that when they were open about that. I think people would have backed off McQuamu if they said, look, he's out for the year. He's done. He can't, he's fought this thing all year long. He missed games.
But then he could have just stood on the sideline with a jersey and not had it up and waved the towel for the whole time.
And maybe he should have done that. I think all the way around it could have been handled better. You guys agree with that, right?
Well, I think they handled it how they meant to handle it, and they are being coached up. And every player that opted out is being coached up on how to interview and answer questions. That's how the NFL draft process goes.
So if you think that, Patrick, I know you put a lot of time into preparation, the whole thing. What do you think NFL teams are thinking, and how are they internalizing this? Does it matter for draft stock?
I think they don't like it, but at a certain point, talent wins out. And I mean, it's not like they're bad kids for opting out or anything like that. They would prefer a guy that didn't do that. Like, I guarantee you, and NFL teams loved seeing Jalen Waddle at 30% trying to fight through and play in the national championship. And
well, let's keep it in the Gamecock perspective. Sedarius Hutcherson was that guy who came out loudly and said, I'm seeing this thing through. That's how I was raised. But is that going to improve his draft stock?
I mean, it might. And that's why, honestly, Shi Smith, I said 5th round. I wouldn't be stunned if there's a team that's like, you know what? I just love this kid's attitude. He was willing to fight through anything. He's a small guy. He plays tough, and he played hurt. And he's aggressive. He gets in guys' faces. I love the intensity he brings to football and the passion he brings to the sport of football. So you know what? I want him, and I can totally see teams doing stuff like that. Well, we won't find out until draft day though, because this has never happened before.
I loved J.C. Horn and his one statement that we need to get on a hot button bill for any time Patrick goes off on his hot takes about the NFL draft. Where he says people don't understand; it's just a draft. Oh. He's talking about years down the line. It'll play out.
Yeah, we'll get into it tomorrow.
He's getting gear up all day.
Love it. He knew the hot take wouldn't get in here in the last seconds of the show. Appreciate you guys listening and participating here on the early game on 107.5 The Game. Dan and Patrick Show coming up next. We're back local at noon here on the station. What do we call it? The home of the Gamecocks? On the home of the Gamecocks. Parenthood, Craig, I hear you.
Tim, I think you had those baseball stats backwards. It looks like South Carolina's batters have struck out 186 times this year, and the pitchers have struck out the opposition 250. Right?
How did I have it wrong?
Oh, I thought you said South Carolina's batters had struck out 200 and some odd times. That's what we were talking about. Strikeout. Was I wrong about that?
I was trying to say that stat of leading the country was the good stat from the pitching, not the bad stat from the hitting.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I pulled it up because the two morons on my Joe and Andy are arguing back and forth. So I was looking at it to see. That's what I thought. Oh, good point.
Good stuff, Alan. Gonna need to be more knowledgeable, Patrick.
You know what really confuses me sometimes is when these bots like a tweet from months ago.
Right.
Yeah.
Like this bot just like, and it's on my, so I looked at it, I saw I had a new notification. It said weekend schedule. Will Gunner and Heath Radio kick off Gamecock football. And all I saw was weekend schedule 2:30. Will Gunner and Heath Radio. I was like, wait, what the hell do I have to do at 2:30 on Saturday?
There's also a YouTube comment earlier that said, who do you think is the best football player in the world right now? Messi, Ronaldo,
I saw that.
Mbappe.
I wanted to go with the guy who I like. What is it? Ibrahim or whatever? The guy that was over here, Slotnovich? Ivanisevic?
Well done.
No, that was just an awful effort. Ibrahimovic.
What is it?
Ibrahimovic.
Yeah, that guy. Zlatan? No one just call him Zlatan?
He calls himself Zlatan.
No, I can get that one out.
All right. Live stream. That'll do it. We'll see you guys in the morning. Thanks for hanging on.